I provided corvée laborers in ancient times with nothing but unlimited burgers and cola, making them work 10 full hours a day before allowing them to rest, and only letting them eat a meal of Szechuan peppercorn chicken on weekends. I thought the workers would riot soon, but on the first day they couldn't sit still. "My lord, is this our last meal?" By the third day, the workers fell into a panic. "My lord isn't trying to fatten us up just to kill us, is he?" Until the 7th day, all the workers came before me. "My lord, whoever you want us to kill, we will kill for you. Our lives belong to you." After this continued for a month, the workers inexplicably draped a yellow robe with dragon patterns over me. "My lord, it's getting cold. Put on some more clothes." I held the dragon robe and looked at it for a long time. "Oh, you are really putting me in a bind. I am utterly loyal to this country and have no ulterior motives whatsoever." It turns out that just a year ago, I transmigrated to an ancient frontier county and awakened a strongest burger system. I thought with the system's support, I would soon reach the pinnacle of life, but I didn't expect the system to only provide me with unlimited burgers and cola at the start. This place is called Shuofang County, the most remote county in the Great Qian dynasty, and it's dirt poor. To make matters worse, there's a drought outside, and nearly 3,000 refugees have gathered outside the city, their eyes turning green with hunger. The city walls are so dilapidated they shake whenever the wind blows, according to the information in my head. 3 days from now, the bandits from nearby Blackwind Fortress are coming down the mountain to cool off. To put it bluntly, they're going to massacre the city. To call this a hellish difficulty start is being polite. I stared blankly at the burger in my hand and suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Burgers are high in calories, and cola is high in sugar. Isn't this exactly what modern capitalists use to quickly replenish their employees' energy so they can keep exploiting them? What do I lack now? Labor to repair the city walls, right? I'll just be an unscrupulous foreman. I'll use this junk food to squeeze the last bit of strength out of these refugees and get the walls repaired. Thinking of this, the bit of fear I had for the ancient world was instantly suppressed by my capitalist instincts. I gave a cold laugh and strode out of the dilapidated county yamen. At the entrance, an old man with white hair and a wrinkled face was waiting anxiously with a dozen men who looked like they still had some strength. This was the village chief of the refugees outside the city named Wang Gensheng. Seeing me come out, Wang Gensheng thumped down to his knees, his voice hoarse. "My lord, please give everyone a way to live. If we don't get food soon, people will really starve to death." The people behind him also knelt in a sea of despair. I cleared my throat, trying to look. "This official knows your difficulties now. I'm giving you a chance to survive. Everyone, look up." They all stared at me intently. "Starting today, this official is recruiting corvée labor to repair the city walls. Everyone regardless of gender or age. As long as you can still move, you must work for me." The refugees were in a commotion, their faces showing anger and despair. Work? They didn't even have the strength to stand up. How could they work? Wasn't this asking for their lives? "My lord, we haven't eaten for 3 days, a man said weakly. "This official knows that's why the rule here is no wages." The crowd completely erupted. "No wages and you still want us to work? Are you trying to drive us to our deaths? Let's fight him." Seeing the refugees clenching their fists and their eyes turning red, my heart was pounding, but I remained as steady as an old dog on the surface. This was exactly the effect I wanted. Push them to the brink first, then give them a little sweetener. "But," I said, raising my voice, "dinner is provided." All the noise vanished instantly. "Dinner?" Wang Gensheng asked cautiously. "What kind of food does the Lord provide? Is it rice porridge? Can we have 1 bowl a day?" In their eyes, being able to drink a bowl of rice porridge so thin you could see your reflection in it was a massive blessing. I curled my lip into what I thought was a cold, capitalist smile. "Rice porridge? In your dreams." I waved my hand grandly and shouted toward the open space. "Bring out the food." To everyone's astonishment, a small mountain made of countless paper-wrapped burgers appeared out of thin air on the clearing in front of the yamen. Beside it was another mountain of black bottles containing a dark liquid that bubbled slightly in the sunlight. A rich aroma of meat mixed with the scent of bread spread instantly. Not a single one of the 3,000 refugees wasn't stunned. They had never smelled anything so delicious in their lives. "What is this? Is it white flour?" "I smell it. These are cakes made of white flour. And there seems to be meat inside." Everyone stared intently at the mountain of burgers, the sound of loud gulps coming from their throats. I was very satisfied with the shock effect. I took a big bite of the burger in my hand, and the juices instantly exploded in my mouth. "This is your food," I said indistinctly. "Everyone gets one before starting work, plus a bottle of water. If you work well, there's more in the evening." The refugees were completely dazed. "Is this real?" Wang Gensheng walked forward trembling and picked one up from the burger mountain. The warm, soft texture made him feel like he was dreaming. He had lived for over 60 years and had only eaten pure white flour buns a few times, let alone this kind of celestial food with a large meat patty inside. He took a cautious bite. The fluffiness of the bread, the savory aroma of the meat patty, and the sweet and sour tang of the sauce, countless flavors he had never experienced exploded on his tongue. Wang Gensheng froze completely, and 2 lines of murky old tears streamed down his wrinkled cheeks. He suddenly thumped to his knees before me again, holding the burger tightly, as if it were a peerless treasure. "My lord," Wang Gensheng wailed, Is this the execution meal for everyone? He couldn't understand what other reason there could be for refugees like them, who were as worthless as grass, to be fed such wonderful things. It must be that this new county magistrate saw that they weren't going to survive anyway, and was giving them a full meal before they died, so they'd have the strength to go on their way to the afterlife. Behind him, all the refugees who received a burger fell silent after the first bite, and then the sound of crying broke out. I've never eaten anything so delicious in my life. Mother, do you see? Your son is eating meat, and such a big piece. My lord, thank you. We'll go on our way now. We'll set up a longevity plaque for you on the way to the Yellow Springs. I was completely dumbfounded, holding my half-eaten burger. Execution meal? Don't talk nonsense. I'm just a black-hearted capitalist who wants to exploit your labor. Why are you thanking me? This script isn't right. I was stunned. Looking at the 3,000 refugees kneeling and crying uncontrollably below, I felt my worldview taking an unprecedented hit. I clearly followed the script of a black-hearted capitalist. Harsh working hours, no wages. Only giving some high-calorie junk food to keep them alive, isn't this standard villainous behavior? How did it become hospice care in their words? Everyone get up, why are you crying? I felt the creeps and could only bark at them. Who said it's an execution meal? Once you're done eating, get to work repairing the walls. If anyone dares to slack off before dark, dinner is cancelled. I felt my tone was fierce enough and capitalist enough. However, in the refugees' ears, those words took on a different meaning. Did the Lord say, "There's more tonight"? A man asked blankly. "If you work well, you'll have it every meal," I replied crossly. With a boom, the crowd completely erupted. Heavens, it's not an execution meal. There's more to eat tonight and every meal. The Lord is a living Buddha, a God descended from the heavens to save us. Wang Gensheng was shaking with excitement. He stood up abruptly and shouted to everyone, "Did you hear that? The Lord doesn't want us to die. He wants us to live. Eat. Everyone eat. Once you're full, use all your strength to repair the walls for the Lord. If anyone dares to slack off, I, Wang Gensheng, will be the first to break his legs." The 3,000 refugees devoured the burgers like madmen and cautiously unscrewed the cola bottles. When the first person drank the cola and that sweet, bubbly liquid rushed down his throat, he was stunned. After drinking this black glazed water, it felt like little hammers were knocking in his stomach, and his whole body was filled with strength. It's a celestial brew. This must be a celestial brew. Shouts of amazement rose one after another from the crowd. They felt an unprecedented power surging through their bodies, despite not having eaten for 3 days. I looked at this group of people who seemed to be on chicken blood, and felt even more nervous. It's just burgers and cola. Is it that serious? I didn't know that in this era, commoners could barely eat a few full meals a year, let alone white flour and pure meat. And for their parched bodies, a high-sugar carbonated drink like cola had an effect no less than a stimulant. After eating and drinking their fill, I didn't even have to urge them, with Wang Gensheng leading the way. The 3,000 refugees, men and women alike, grabbed tools and charged at the dilapidated city walls. They worked like they were desperate, carrying stones, mixing mud, all with feverish energy. A boulder that originally required 10 people to lift could now be moved by 3 or 5 burger-fed strongmen with a single roar. The city walls were being repaired and heightened section by section at a terrifying speed visible to the naked eye. I stood at the entrance of the yamen watching the scene, my mouth hanging open wide enough to fit an egg. This efficiency is way too high. I thought that even if these people who had been starving for days ate something, it would be good enough just to recover a bit of strength. But this wasn't a group of refugees, it was a mob of berserker construction workers. 3 days passed, and the section of the Shufang wall that had been broken by bandits for decades was miraculously rebuilt, even higher and thicker than before. During these 3 days, my only responsibility was to dish out the food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner like clockwork, with unlimited burgers and cola. The refugees were like wound-up machines. Other than eating and sleeping, they worked like crazy. They even organized shifts spontaneously, so there were people on the construction site 24 hours a day. I was completely confused. Something is wrong. This is very wrong. I sat on the broken chair in the yamen biting a burger, my brows furrowed. By all logic, with such high-intensity labor, people should have rioted or gone on strike long ago. But these people didn't riot. Instead, the way they looked at me became increasingly strange. How should I describe it? It wasn't gratitude, but a kind of fanaticism, even mixed with a hint of awe and fear. What exactly were they thinking? I couldn't figure it out, so I decided to head over to the worksheds tonight to hear what they were chatting about. Late at night, there were no fires lit in the sheds. But no one was sleeping. They sat together in the dark. The atmosphere unusually heavy. Wang Gensheng sat in the middle and lowered his voice, speaking solemnly. "Everyone, speak up. What have you felt these past 3 days?" A brawny man said in a muffled voice, "Chief, I feel like I have endless strength. I used to struggle to carry a 100 caddy sack, but now I can lift a 200 caddy stone with one hand." "Me too, and I feel like after eating the celestial food the Lord gave us, many of my old ailments have improved a lot," another added. "The most important thing is that brew," a young man said excitedly. "No matter how tired I am from work, as long as I take a sip, I'm instantly full of energy. This is definitely no ordinary item." Wang Gensheng nodded. His expression became even more solemn. I've lived for over 60 years and have seen a bit of the world. This thing we eat is called a burger, made of pure white flour cakes with high-quality beef patties inside. That water is called cola, a celestial brew that restores strength instantly. He paused and looked around. Most importantly, have you thought about this? This level of rations, let alone us refugees, even the most elite Imperial Guard in the capital probably couldn't eat this. Everyone fell silent, their breathing becoming heavy. Yes, this was too illogical. Wang Gensheng said one word at a time. I've thought it over, and there's only one possibility. All eyes focused on him. The Lord is raising an army, and he is raising us as top-tier death soldiers. As soon as the words death soldiers came out, the air in the shed seemed to freeze. What were they? They were tools kept by the nobility specifically to perform suicide missions. They enjoyed the best treatment and ate the best food so that at the critical moment, they would sacrifice their lives without hesitation. Chief, you mean the Lord is feeding us so well because he wants us to go to our deaths? Someone asked tremblingly. Fool, Wang Gensheng barked quietly. This isn't sending us to our deaths. This is a massive opportunity. He stood up, his voice filled with a strange excitement. What are we? We're refugees, we're mud. But now? The Lord has given us dignity we've never had and let us eat food only gods can taste. Why hasn't he said it openly? Because this is a secret. Raising top-tier death soldiers is a major affair that could shake the imperial court. The Lord doesn't say it because he's afraid of leaking the news, or afraid we'll be scared. We can't be ungrateful. The Lord gave us a new life, so we should give our lives back to him. Wang Gensheng's words were like a fire, igniting the humble hope and unvented fanaticism in everyone's hearts. Yes, the chief is right. These lives belong to the Lord. From today on, I am the Lord's death soldier. If anyone dares to disrespect the Lord, I'll be the first to tear them apart. The workers were impassioned. Some even bit their fingers to write a blood pledge on the wall. Just then, the tattered curtain of the shed was lifted, and I walked in yawning. I just wanted to see if these people were asleep, and remind them not to work too hard if they died of exhaustion. My reputation as a black-hearted capitalist would be sealed. Why are you all gathered here instead of sleeping? Got too much energy? I asked casually. Take it easy tomorrow. Go to bed early. After saying that, I yawned again and turned to leave. Once I left, the entire shed was dead silent. After a long while, Wang Gensheng spoke tremblingly, his voice full of excitement and lingering fear. Did you all see that? The Lord is still patrolling late at night. He is testing us. Testing our loyalty. We almost made an uproar just now. If the Lord thought we were weak-minded and unfit for great things, then the consequences would be unimaginable. So that's it. The Lord telling us to sleep early is a hint to gather our strength for an emergency. We were so dull, we almost failed the Lord's hard work. Everyone realized at once, and as they looked in the direction I had gone, the fanaticism in their eyes grew even stronger. They lowered their bodies in unison, moving with precision. Rule number 1 of an actor's self-cultivation: profoundly comprehend every hint from the Lord. The city walls were finished, and half the weight on my heart was lifted, but the other half hung even higher. Black Wind Fortress. According to the meager memories left by the previous magistrate, these bandits were no joke. There were over 800 of them, all desperate outlaws. Their leader, Black Whirlwind, was a fierce character who could tear tigers and leopards apart with his bare hands. 7 days were up. Today was the last day. I was restless all day, pacing back and forth in the dilapidated Yemen, making the uneven ground even more pitted. What to do? What to do? I kept muttering, my palms covered in sweat. Good, the walls are fixed now. But once the gates are closed, I can't even run out. And outside is the wilderness. As a modern corporate slave, if I run out, I'll either be eaten by wild wolves or slaughtered as a fat sheep by other refugees. Surrender? Are you kidding? Given the nature of the Black Wind Fortress bandits, once they enter the city, it'll be looting, burning, and every kind of evil. I, the magistrate, would definitely be the first one hung from the city tower to dry. Fight them? With what? Under me is just a group of refugees who've only had a few days of full meals, even though their strength has increased. They don't even have a decent sword. Black Wind Fortress has 800 brawny men who are well-equipped. System? System? Are you there? I called out frantically in my head. Is there an upgraded newbie gift pack? Give me some guns and ammo or even just cold weapons. The system didn't respond. It always plays dead at the critical moment. I was so angry I wanted to curse. I felt like a pay-to-win player who just topped up his account only to find the items gifted couldn't beat the boss. I felt like dying. Time ticked by, the sun slowly set in the west, and the orange-red light hitting the dilapidated walls of Shuofeng County didn't feel warm at all, but rather carried an ominous, bloody air. A shrill roar came from the wall as a man responsible for lookout came scrambling down the ladder. My lord! They're here! The people from Black Wind Fortress are here. A dark mass of them, everywhere. My heart sank. What was coming was finally here. I took a deep breath, trying to make my 2 weak legs stand straight, grabbed a rusty ceremonial saber nearby to embolden myself, and walked up the wall step by step. With every step I felt like my heart was going to jump out of my throat. I'm just a lowly commoner. Why do I have to go through this? I wanted to cry. When I finally climbed the wall and looked out, I gasped. Dust was billowing on the distant horizon, and a large black shadow was moving rapidly toward Shuofeng. At a glance, there were at least 700 or 800 of them, all on horseback. You brats in the city, your grandpa Black Wind has come to borrow grain. Black Whirlwind reined in his horse below the wall and pointed his axe at me, his voice booming like thunder. Be good and open the gates. Hand over the grain and women. Grandpa might still leave your corpses intact. Otherwise, when the city falls, not even a chicken or dog will be left. Arrogant! Too arrogant! I was shaking with anger, half from fear and half from genuine rage. But what could I do? I didn't even dare to shout a threat back. Just then, Wang Gensheng came over with a group of the sturdiest men. Although there was fear on their faces, their eyes held more of a strange determination. My lord, Wang Gensheng bowed heavily to me. We cannot open the gate. Nonsense. I know we can't open it, I hissed, my voice cracking. But if we don't, they'll break through and we'll die even more miserably. My lord, we are not afraid to die. A brawny man said in a muffled voice, still holding a sharpened trowel used for masonry. Yes, we aren't afraid to die. The Lord gave us full meals and gave us dignity. These lives belong to the Lord. We'll fight them. At most it's just death. Starving to death is death, and dying in battle is death. At least in battle, we die with full stomachs. The men's eyes were red. They stared intently at the bandits below like beasts protecting their food. I was completely stunned. Looking at these people, I suddenly realized one thing. I was afraid of the bandits because I wanted to live, while these refugees weren't afraid because they had just crawled out of hell. It was my burgers and cola that made them feel like human beings. Now, someone was coming to smash their rice bowls and turn them back into starving dogs at the mercy of others. That was worse than killing them. My lord, Wang Gensheng spoke again, his voice hoarse and steady. Please give the order. We are willing to fight to the death for you. Fight to the death for the Lord. Fight to the death for the Lord. The roars of 3,000 people joined together, actually faint pressing down the arrogant bluster of the 800 bandits below. My mind was churning. Fight to the death. With what? Spades and hoes. But looking at their resolute faces, I knew there was no turning back. If I dared to say no now, those fanatical death soldiers would probably tear me apart before the bandits could even get in. Do it. Let's just die then. Coming here only to be pathetically beheaded, it's better to take 800 bandits to hell with me. At least I won't be lonely on the Yellow Springs Road. Fine. I picked up the saber from the ground and roared with all my might. Open the gates. What? Wang Gensheng and everyone else were stunned. Open the gates? Isn't that suicide? I said open the gates. My eyes were also red. I pointed at Black Whirlwind below, my voice becoming shrill with excitement. Don't they want to come in? Let them in. I want to see if their 800 blades are sharper. Or if our 3,000 fists are harder. I was throwing caution to the wind. It was death either way. Staying in the city meant waiting to die passively. Charging out might give us a 1 in 10,000 chance. Wang Gensheng looked at the frenzied me, first with surprise, then with a look of realization and immense admiration. So that's it. The Lord is placing us in a dead end, so we will fight to survive. I see it now. Our motley crew couldn't hold the wall anyway. Instead of being hit passively until our morale is gone, we should strike first and use our strongest momentum to crush the enemy. The Lord is indeed a god of war. We mortals truly cannot even hold a candle to him. Everyone, listen to the Lord. Open the gates. Wang Gensheng raised his arms and shouted, Open the gates. Kill. The heavy gates made a creaking sound as they slowly opened. Black Whirlwind below was puzzled. What's the situation? Surrendering? No, wait. Look at their posture. It's like they want to eat people. Before he could figure it out, he saw over 3,000 refugees dressed in rags, carrying a variety of weapons, hoes, shovels, wooden sticks, and even some carrying large leftover stones from the wall, surging out of the gates like a tide. Their eyes were bloodshot, and they let out inarticulate roars with a suicidal madness on their faces. For the burgers, a man roared, swinging his hoe in a full circle and smashing it directly into a bandit's horse's head. For the cola, another man yelled, hugging a 100-caddy rock and throwing it with all his might into the densest part of the crowd. Whoever dares to snatch my food, I'll take his life. Where were these refugees? They were clearly a swarm of demons crawling out of hell. Didn't they care about their lives? A bandit slashed a refugee's arm, blood flowing freely. But the refugee didn't even groan. Instead, he lunged and bit the bandit's neck, tearing off a piece of flesh. Another bandit's spear pierced a brawny man's stomach, but before the man died, he hugged the bandit tightly so his companions charging from behind could smash him into pulp with stones. This wasn't a battle, it was a massacre. 3,000 full-bellied, super-strong and fearless berserkers against 800 pampered, instantly terrified elite bandits. From the start, the battle was completely one-sided. I stood on the wall watching the scene, my calves shaking. I thought it would be a tragic, bloody battle, but I never imagined it would be a one-sided steamrolling. That group of refugees, that group of death soldiers. Their fighting style was too primitive and too effective. They had no formations or tactics. Their only belief was to kill the enemy in front of them who wanted to steal their burgers. Half an hour later, the battle was over. The ground outside the gates was covered in bandit corpses and severed limbs. Blood flowed like a river. Of the 800 bandits, besides the 100 or 200 who knelt in surrender out of fear, all the rest had become corpses. And while those 3,000 death soldiers were all injured and covered in blood, fewer than 100 had actually fallen. Black Whirlwind, that insufferably arrogant leader, was pinned to the ground by a dozen strong men who smashed his limbs with stones and then dragged him to the wall like a dead dog. The 3,000 men, radiating a thick scent of blood and a murderous aura, stood quietly outside the city. Then, led by Wang Gensheng, they turned in unison to face me on the wall. With a boom, the 3,000 men dropped to one knee. The sound of their crude weapons hitting the ground was uniform and deafening. Wang Gensheng looked up, his blood-stained face filled with unprecedented fanaticism and worship. With all his might, he let out a deafening roar. "My lord, whoever you want to kill, we will kill for you. Our lives belong to you. Our lives belong to you." The voices of 3,000 people merged into a torrent that pierced the sky. I stood on the wall, stunned by this terrifying aura and fanatical worship. My vision went black, my legs could no longer support me, and I collapsed onto my backside. Oh my God, I've gone too far. My lips trembled, and my face was pale. Meanwhile, on a large tree not far away, a figure in a black stealth suit was looking at me on the wall, and the 3,000 demon-like death soldiers with the eyes of someone seeing a devil. Trembling, he took out a brush and paper, and by the lingering light of the sunset, wrote a line as fast as possible. Shuofang Magistrate Lin Yuan secretly harbors 3,000 demon death soldiers, effortlessly slaughtered 800 Black Wind bandits. This man has towering ambition and deep schemes. He likely harbors treasonous intent, extremely urgent. After writing, he stuffed the note into a small bamboo tube, tied it to a carrier pigeon's leg, and threw it into the sky with all his might. The pigeon flapped its wings and flew rapidly toward the capital. I was carried back to the yamen by Wang Gensheng and the others. I was truly terrified then. My hands and feet were ice cold, and my mind was blank. I let those blood-covered men carry me back like a pillar. By the time I came to, I was already sitting in the yamen's rickety armchair, with a dark mass of people kneeling below. Wang Gensheng was at the head. He had briefly treated his wounds, but the blood and filth on his face and body hadn't been wiped away yet. Combined with his fanatical eyes, he looked more like a villain than the Black Wind bandits. "My lord, 623 Black Wind bandits were slain, 177 captured. The leader Black Whirlwind has had his limbs broken and awaits your command." Wang Gensheng's voice was loud, full of pride as if claiming credit. Hearing this report, my lips started trembling again. Over 600 killed, over 100 captured. Good heavens, this is a massacre. I looked at the people below just a few days ago. They were refugees on the verge of death, too weak to even stand. Now they had become killing gods who could chop bandits like vegetables. This change was too fast, so fast my heart could barely take it. Is the power of burgers and cola really this terrifying? Everyone get up. I managed to squeeze out through my teeth. I wanted to appear dignified, but my voice was shaking like a leaf. Casualties. How are our casualties? For the Lord. Wang Gensheng puffed out his chest with pride. 92 of our brothers died in battle, over 150 were seriously injured, and the rest have light injuries that won't affect going to work tomorrow. I fell silent. 92 dead. Although small compared to the results, those were 92 living human lives. My heart. They died to protect my so-called rice bowl. The brothers who died in battle must be buried with honors, I sighed, my voice low. Families, forget it. They don't have families left. Find a good place to lay them to rest. As for compensation, I wanted to say I'd give them pensions, but I felt my pockets and my face was cleaner than my wallet. The entire Shufang County's finances were in the negative. What could I give? Wang Gensheng, however, seemed to read my mind and immediately said, "My lord, do not worry. To die for the Lord is their honor. We have long since disregarded life and death." Besides, he changed his tone, an excited look on his face. "My lord, we are rich. We searched those bandits and found a lot of gold and silver, as well as their horses and weapons. It's enough to give our fallen brothers a grand funeral. There's such a good thing." My eyes lit up, and that bit of sadness was instantly diluted. That's right, rob the rich. How could I forget that? Black Wind Fortress had been entrenched on Shuofang Mountain for years, looting who knows how many passing merchants. They must have accumulated quite a fortune. Quickly, count the spoils and bring them to me. I suddenly became energized, feeling like I had come back to life. Soon, chests of glittering gold and jewelry, along with piles of weapons and armor, were carried into the yamen courtyard. I looked at that shining gold and white silver, and my eyes went wide. I'm rich. I'm really rich now. This dirt-poor county finally has its first bucket of gold. I calculated in my head, with this money I could buy grain, repair the yamen, get some proper weapons for these death soldiers, and maybe even make myself a few new clothes. Just as I was immersed in the joy of wealth, Wang Gensheng spoke again. "My lord, now that Black Wind Fortress is destroyed, we 3,000 brothers are all willing to die for you. However, as a group without a leader, we lack a system. If a strong enemy attacks again, it might be hard to exert our full strength. I emboldened myself to ask the Lord to bestow a name upon us and establish an organization for our training. Bestow a name? Organization? I chuckled. What is all this getting formalized? Looking at the fanatical eyes of the crowd below, my heart was pounding. I'm just a salted fish magistrate who wants to live a lazy life. I don't want to build an army. If this reaches the ears of the imperial court, isn't it blatant rebellion? There's no rush, no rush, I waved my hand, trying to brush it off. Everyone is tired today. Go rest and eat. Tonight there's an extra meal. Burgers as much as you can eat, and cola as much as you can drink. I tried to use my only weapon, food, to change the subject. However, Wang Gensheng shook his head solemnly. My lord, if the name is not correct, the language is not in accordance with the truth. Since we take the Lord as our master, we should have a resounding name. This is also to show the Lord's majesty. Yes, please bestow a name, my lord. Bestow a name. The people below joined in the clamor. I had a massive headache. Bestow a name? What name? The Burger Cult or the Cola Suicide Squad? That would be too embarrassing to say out loud. My mind spun quickly, trying to find an excuse to decline. Ahem, I cleared my throat, putting on a look of profound mystery. This official has his own plans for this matter. A title is but a hollow name. True strength comes from within, from your absolute loyalty to me. What you must do now is not pursue these hollow names, but consolidate today's victory and improve your own strength. Understand. I felt these words were quite high level, full of philosophical debate, and should be able to bluff these uneducated peasants. Sure enough, as soon as I finished, it became silent below. Wang Gensheng and several leading men looked at each other, and then a look of realization dawned on them. Wang Gensheng was so excited his body was shaking. He bowed to me again, his voice full of awe. The Lord is wise. I was dull. Wise? I was stunned. I'm wise? I was just talking nonsense. I heard Wang Gensheng continue explaining to those around him in a now I get it tone. Did you hear that? The Lord said titles are hollow. True strength comes from within. He is giving us guidance. We just won a battle and we're becoming complacent and eager for success. That's a major taboo for military strategists. The Lord is afraid we'll become impetuous and deviate from the path. Another man added, exactly. The Lord also told us to consolidate our victory and improve our strength. This means we shouldn't flaunt our victory, but continue silently building our strength. This is called a hidden dragon in the abyss. The Lord is playing a grand game of chess, so that's it. The Lord wants us to keep a low profile. He means now is not the time to reveal our divine army, I understand. What we need to do now is incorporate the captives, distribute the weapons, and then undergo even harsher training. When the time is right and the Lord raises his arm to call, we will soar to the sky. The Lord's foresight is truly beyond our reach. Hearing their discussion, I was completely dazed. Hidden dragon in the abyss? Keeping a low profile? Playing a big game of chess? What on earth are you talking about? I just simply don't want to attract trouble. How do you understand my meaning better than I do? I felt like I was completely on a different frequency from these people. I was thinking about how to hide and slack off, while these people had already automatically filled in a whole script of conquering the world and pushed me into the lead role. My lord, we understand. Wang Gensheng looked up, his eyes incredibly resolute. We will not fail the Lord's hard work. From today on, we shall call ourselves the Camp Crushers, usually civilians, but soldiers in wartime. We don't ask for a title, only to be able to clear obstacles for the Lord. Camp Crushers. The name sounded quite impressive. I opened my mouth to say don't do anything crazy, but seeing Wang Gensheng's expression that said, you don't need to say more, I understand everything. Just leave it to me. I swallowed my words. Forget it. Let them be. I felt like I had lost control of the situation. This war chariot called Shuofang had been welded shut by this group of hyped-up death soldiers. It was hurtling toward a path I couldn't predict at all, and the only thing I, the driver, could do now was buckle my seatbelt and pray we don't crash. Fine, you handle it as you see fit. I waved my hand weakly. Put the spoils in the warehouse. The injured should rest well, and everyone else go eat. By your command. The crowd responded with a roar and then withdrew in an orderly fashion. The huge yamen was suddenly left with just me in a courtyard full of gold and silver. Looking at that treasure, I couldn't feel happy at all. I slumped in the chair and gave a long sigh. I just wanted to be an unscrupulous foreman, exploit some labor, and slack off. How did it turn into a rebellion vibe? I feel this world is just too crazy. The day after Blackwind Fortress was destroyed, I slept until the sun was high in the sky. This was the most peaceful sleep I'd had since transmigrating. Mainly, I was mentally exhausted. The ups and downs of yesterday were more stimulating than my entire previous life combined. Rubbing my sleepy eyes, I walked out of the room to see Wang Gensheng and his men busy in the courtyard. The yard had been cleaned spotless, and the bloody smell from yesterday had faded a lot. The captured gold, silver, and weapons were sorted and piled up under guard. Even the broken door of the yamen had been repaired overnight. Everything looked in perfect order. My lord, you're awake. Wang Gensheng saw me and immediately put down his tools, walked over quickly, and gave a respectful bow. I yawned and asked casually, what's everyone doing? No need to repair the walls anymore? Aren't they already fixed? Replying to the lord, Wang Gensheng said with a serious face, the walls are fixed, but they are not high enough or thick enough. We've discussed it, and we want to raise the Shuofang walls by 3 zhang and thicken them by 1 zhang according to the standards of the capital's walls. Additionally, we need to dig a moat outside the city, set traps, and build towers. I listened, stunned. What? Capital standards? Are you crazy? I blurted out. Shuofang is just a tiny piece of land. Why build such exaggerated defense fortifications? Do we have too much money to burn?
Oh, right, it is indeed a bit early, Wang Gensheng said solemnly. My lord, this is not madness but foresight. Your ambition lies in the world, and Shuofang County is our foundation. If the foundation is unstable, how can we plot grand affairs? Now that our strength hasn't been fully exposed, it's the perfect time to reinforce the city's defenses and develop your followers. Here we go again. Here we go again. Hearing words like ambition for the world and grand affairs gave me a headache. I clutched my forehead and said weakly, "Stop, stop, old Wang, village chief Wang, listen to me."
Please speak, my lord. This old man is all ears. Wang Gensheng immediately assumed a listening posture, his eyes full of a desire for knowledge. Me? I don't have any great ambitions. I've decided to lay my cards on the table and have a good talk with him. I just want everyone to have food to eat, a place to live, and to live a stable life. Fighting and killing are too dangerous. We should avoid them if possible. Now that we have money, let's fix up the county town first, repair the roads, build some houses. Isn't it better to make everyone's lives a bit more comfortable? I felt that my words were heartfelt and full of humanistic concern. They should be able to move them right. However, after Wang Gensheng finished listening, his body trembled. The way he looked at me was instantly filled with emotion and guilt. My lord. His voice was even a bit choked. We understand. What did you understand now? I had a bad feeling in my heart. My lord is kind-hearted and cares for all people, yet we only thought of fighting and achieving fame. It's truly too narrow-minded, Wang Gensheng said with a face full of shame. My lord is teaching us. The true king's way lies in pacifying the people and enriching the people. Weapons are instruments of evil, which the sage uses only when he has no choice. We only saw the dominance of using them, but ignored the no-choice aspect of the people's hearts. My lord, we know we were wrong. I kept my mouth open for a long time without closing it. Is that what I meant? I simply didn't want to fight and wanted to lie flat and enjoy life. How did it become the king's way and the people's hearts? How exactly do these people's brains work? Did eating the burgers not only mutate their muscles but also their brains? Rest assured, my lord. Wang Gensheng cupped his fist suddenly, his gaze becoming incredibly firm. We understand your profound meaning. Let us stabilize the internal affairs first. We will immediately organize people to reinforce the city defenses while repairing the town. We will never fail my lord's expectations. We will build Shuofang County into an impregnable and prosperous paradise, becoming the strongest support for my lord's imperial ambition. After saying that, without waiting for me to reply, he turned and went to arrange the tasks with great vigor. I looked at his back, reaching out my hand, but couldn't say a single word. Communication failed, a total failure. I felt like a manager of a normal celebrity, but the fans thought the Appa was too humble and was actually a god. Forget it. I'm tired. Let it all be destroyed. I gave up struggling. I realized that reasoning with these people didn't work. Their ability to fill in the blanks had broken through the sky. Whatever I said would be misinterpreted as something else. Whatever. As long as they work and I give them burgers. As long as they don't actually drag me to rebel. Repairing the town and building houses is fine. Thinking of this, my mind became active again. Since we're doing infrastructure, we need a plan. I'm a modern person after all. Although I didn't study civil engineering, I have some basic concepts. Furthermore, as a former 1996 corporate slave, I know the importance of balancing work and rest. I know how to more efficiently squeeze the surplus value out of employees. A wonderful black-hearted plan formed in my head. In the afternoon, I called Wang Gensheng and several newly promoted small leaders to the county office. Starting today, this official will issue several new regulations. You must implement them strictly. I sat in the Grandmaster chair, trying my best to look like an authoritative leader. Wang Gensheng and the others immediately stood at attention, looking focused. Please give us your instructions, my lord. Regarding working hours, I held up a finger. From now on, the daily working hours are set at 10 shichen, starting from the hour of the rabbit and ending at the hour of the rooster, with a 1 shichen break for lunch and rest in between. I calculated in my head, 1 shichen is 2 hours. 10 shichen is 20 hours? Wait, the ancient method of calculating shichen doesn't seem to be like that. I remember a day has 12 shichen. The hour of the rabbit is 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., and the hour of the rooster is 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Calculating it this way, the working time is about 12 hours. A standard 996 blessing, maybe even a little more. For these ancient people, it should be considered high intensity. However, after listening, Wang Gensheng and the others had faces full of confusion. My lord, do you mean we only have to work 12 hours a day? Wang Gensheng asked cautiously. Yes, is there a problem? I asked back. But Wang Gensheng said with total confusion, we used to work in shifts 24 hours a day. The construction site never stopped. Now we only work 12 hours a day, so what do we do with the rest of the time? Isn't this delaying the project? I almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Am I complaining that you're working too little? I'm afraid you'll drop dead. You bunch of involution kings, even I, a capitalist, can't stand to watch this.
I forced an explanation. The body is the capital of revolution. Without a good body, how can you contribute to me and to Shuofang County? Balance is the only way to last long. This is my way of training soldiers. I really couldn't make up any more, so I could only tie it back to training soldiers. Sure enough, upon hearing the way of training soldiers, Wang Gensheng and the others immediately showed expressions of, "So that's how it is. My lord is brilliant. We only knew how to train hard, but didn't know the importance of recuperation and the harmony of qi and blood. My lord is teaching us how to cultivate." I am not. I didn't want to get tangled in this issue anymore and continued. The second rule, which is also the most important one, I emphasized my tone and everyone held their breath. From now on, for every 5 days of work, you rest for 2 days. I dropped a bombshell. I thought this would finally make them understand my benevolence. A 5-day work week with 2 days off. This was a treatment simply unimaginable in ancient times. However, reality gave me another heavy blow. The scene was deathly silent. Wang Gensheng and several leaders all looked at me like they were looking at an idiot. After a long time, Wang Gensheng spoke with a trembling voice. "My lord, are you saying that every 5 days we aren't allowed to work for 2 days?" "Yes." I nodded proudly. "Then what do we eat?" a leader blurted out. I was stunned. Of course, food is provided on rest days too. Burgers and cola will be supplied as usual. Whoosh. Those words were like lighting a powder keg. Wang Gensheng flopped to his knees, old tears streaming down his face. "My lord, you absolutely must not. You must not." I was dumbfounded. "My lord," Wang Gensheng cried, "we are but lowly lives. To be taken in by my lord, to have work, and to have enough to eat is already a heavenly grace. Now, we haven't achieved any merit or taken any land. How can we dare to enjoy my lord's celestial food for free? Not working for 2 days but still eating and drinking for free. We will be struck by lightning for this." "Yes, my lord, please take back your order. We won't rest. We can still work." A whole group knelt down below, wailing as if me giving them a holiday was some kind of heinous torture. I completely broke down. I covered my face and let out a sound of despair. "I just wanted to give you a holiday and implement some humane management. Why don't you understand? I felt like I wasn't managing a group of people, but a group of robots with bugs in their code, and I couldn't fix the bug. In the end, I couldn't beat these involution kings. The proposal for a double weekend was met with unanimous opposition from all the people. The intensity of the opposition was comparable to someone trying to steal their rice bowls. Finally, both sides took a step back and reached a consensus that seemed extremely ridiculous to me. For every 10 days of work, they would rest for 1 day, and on that rest day, the rations would be halved. This was something Wang Gensheng and the others begged for with tears in their eyes. They believed that if they didn't work, they couldn't eat full rations of celestial food. This was a matter of principle and their bottom line as death-sworn soldiers. What else could I say? I could only agree. I felt like the one being squeezed, mentally exhausted. Anyway, the regulations were finally set. 12 shichen of work a day, 1 rest day every 10 days. Although it was far from my original intention, at least there was a system so they wouldn't work themselves to death like before. In the following days, the construction of Shuofang County entered a new, even more fanatical stage. Under the guidance of Wang Gensheng and the others, my way of training soldiers and the balance theory were revered as holy scripture. They arranged the 12 shichen of daily work time very clearly. 4 shichen in the morning were for high-intensity physical labor, carrying giant rocks and digging foundations. They called this body refinement. 1 shichen at noon was for eating and meditation. They believed that the burgers and cola contained vast energy that must be refined through meditation to maximize the absorption of the essence and strengthen their qi and blood. Thus, every day at noon, a strange sight appeared on the construction sites of Shuofang County. Over 3,000 strong men, each with a burger in one hand and a cola in the other. After eating, they would immediately sit cross-legged and close their eyes to concentrate, each looking solemn. From time to time, they would let out a loud burp. The first time I saw this scene, I almost spat out the cola in my mouth. These people were really taking burgers like they were immortal pills. In the afternoon, it was more high-intensity physical labor. After finishing work in the evening, they didn't stay idle. Under the organization of Wang Gensheng, all young men, including those former mountain bandits who voluntarily surrendered after being captured, had to undergo 1 shichen of combat training. The so-called combat training involved taking captured weapons or simply hoes and shovels and sparring with each other. They had no set style, they just used their working strength to hack and smash at each other. For a time, every night in the open space outside the sheds, there was a clanging of metal and earth-shattering roars. Anyone who didn't know better would think another battle was happening. I was already numb to all of this. I couldn't be bothered to care, and I couldn't control it anyway. My daily task was to take piles of burgers and cola out of the system at mealtimes, watch these people wolf them down, and then watch them go meditate and cultivate. I felt less like a goddess and more like a zookeeper. In the blink of an eye, 10 days passed. On the morning of the first rest day, I was woken up by an earth-shattering roar. I walked into the yard in a daze. I discovered that those people not only weren't resting but had actually gotten up earlier than usual.
and were conducting a training session on the open ground that I completely couldn't understand.
You call this resting? Are they trying to commit suicide?
My lord, you misunderstand. You taught us to balance work and rest. We pondered hard and finally realized, labor is body refinement and is active, so a rest day must naturally be qi refinement and be still. Wang Gensheng spoke with great conviction. But I once discovered that during this kind of low-intensity confrontation and impact, the qi in the body, that is, the energy from the celestial food you bestowed, will circulate faster. This shows that the combination of movement and stillness is the supreme method of cultivation.
I beg of you, stop misunderstanding. If you keep going like this, are you going to ascend to heaven on the spot?
I had completely given up on talking science with these people. Now I only wanted to know one thing. Are you guys still eating today? Yes, of course. But according to the agreement, rations are halved today. Half a burger and half a bottle of cola per person is enough.
I sighed and, with a thought, prepared to take food out of the system. Just then, that long-lost mechanical voice suddenly rang in my mind. Ding! Detected that the governed population has stably exceeded 3,000, and territory construction has taken initial shape. Prosperity has increased slightly. System upgrade conditions met. New menu unlocked. Weekend special, spicy pepper chicken. Item description, spicy pepper chicken, high protein, high calorie, with special spices. After consumption, it can significantly enhance the user's bodily functions for a short time, entering a state of excitement. Pain perception is weakened, and strength and speed are increased by 30%. This is a weekend special and can be distributed once every 7 days. I was stunned. The system upgraded? And there's a new dish? Spicy pepper chicken? Looking at the description, my eyes lit up. Increasing strength and speed, weakening pain, isn't this just a frenzy potion? Although it has a 7-day cooldown, this thing is definitely a trump card at critical moments. My heart was filled with joy, and the previous gloom was swept away. Looking at the crowd still practicing below, a bold idea popped into my head. Haha. I cleared my throat to get everyone's attention. Seeing as you all have practiced diligently and made rapid progress, this official is very gratified, I said, putting on an act using their way of speaking. I have decided to bestow upon you new celestial food today as an encouragement. New celestial food. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked over in unison, their eyes full of curiosity and longing. They had long felt that while burgers and cola were miraculous, they surely weren't all of my lord's means. Was he finally going to bring out something even more advanced? Bring out the food! I mimicked the style of the first time and waved my hand. The next second, in the open space of the county office, a large pile of packages wrapped in oil paper and emitting steam appeared out of thin air. An incredibly powerful aroma instantly swept through the entire office and spread in all directions. It was a complex scent, a mix of numbing, spicy, fresh, and fragrant. Just smelling it made one's mouth water uncontrollably. Gulp. 3,000 people swallowed at the same time. If the aroma of the burgers was rich and satisfying, the scent of this spicy pepper chicken was soul-hooking and maddening. What kind of divine item is this? Just smelling the scent, I feel the qi and blood in my body boiling. It's too fragrant. I almost can't control myself. Wang Gensheng walked forward tremblingly and picked up an oil paper package. The scalding temperature and the aggressive aroma entering his nose made him feel like his soul was trembling. He carefully opened the oil paper to see a whole chicken soaked in sauce, showing an enticing bright red color, sprinkled with green Sichuan peppercorns and red dried chilies. He tore off a drumstick, ignoring the heat, and stuffed it directly into his mouth. Sizzle. Huh. The moment the meat entered his mouth, an unprecedented experience exploded in his oral cavity. The tenderness of the meat, the richness of the sauce, followed by a numbing sensation that shot to the tip of his tongue like lightning, and a spiciness that burned his throat like fire. These two incredibly aggressive flavors, far from conflicting, merged perfectly, stimulating every one of his taste buds and making every pore in his body open up. Wang Gensheng froze completely. He felt less like he was eating food, and more like he was swallowing a ball of fire. A surge of heat rose from his stomach and instantly rushed to his limbs. Filled with explosive power, Wang Gensheng couldn't help but look up and let out a long laugh, the sound shaking the surroundings. His old face, full of wrinkles, was now flushed red, and his eyes glowed with golden light. He looked as if he had become 20 years younger. Everyone was dumbfounded. What happened to the village chief? After eating that thing, he seems like a different person. Quick, I want to eat it too. The crowd instantly became rowdy. One after another, they scrambled forward to snatch the spicy pepper chicken from the ground. When the first person, the second, the third, when everyone had taken their first bite of the chicken, the entire Shufeng County was enveloped by fits of uncontrollable beast-like growls and roars. Over 3,000 people, each with a crimson face, steam rising from their bodies, and eyes full of a berserk fighting spirit. They felt that the power in their bodies was so great it was about to explode, and they urgently needed a way to vent it. Looking at this group of berserkers who looked like they'd been injected with super stimulants, I backed away repeatedly. I knew this thing was effective, but I didn't expect it to be this effective. This wasn't spicy pepper chicken, it was clearly a frenzy potion. You guys calm down. However, my voice was completely drowned out by that earth-shattering roar.
Shuofang County's first rest day was spent in a chaos of flying feathers and ghostly wails. The 3,000-plus people who ate the chicken went completely crazy. The energy in their bodies had nowhere to go, so they could only consume it through the most primitive methods. Thus, the open space outside the county office became their duel ground. They fought with bare fists or wooden sticks, every punch and kick accompanied by the sound of wind, with astonishing force. They seemed to know no pain. Even when beaten black and blue, they only grinned and struck back in an even more fierce manner.
The wooden stake formation used previously for impact training was forcibly dismantled by them in less than an hour. The thick wooden stakes were snapped by them as easily as breaking twigs. I hid inside the county office, peeking through the crack in the door at the scene outside, my heart pounding. These weren't people, they were a group of humanoid Gundams. I was starting to regret it now. If I had known the side effects of this spicy pepper chicken were so big, I wouldn't have brought it out. What if they got so high one day that they couldn't control themselves and dismantled me? The county magistrate? I shivered and called the system in my heart. System? Is there an antidote for this thing? Or is there any side effect manual? The system remained cold and silent. I could only pray for the effects to pass quickly. Fortunately, this berserk state didn't last too long. By the afternoon, the excitement brought by the chicken gradually faded, replaced by an extreme fatigue. The group of strong men who had been crazy all morning were now lying all over the ground, fast asleep, their snoring like thunder. Only then did I dare to walk out of the county office. Looking at the bodies all over the ground and the mess of the training field, I let out a long sigh of relief. Finally, it's quiet. Wang Gensheng was the first one to wake up. He shook his head, which was still a bit dazed, and felt the state of his body. Immediately, his face showed an expression of extreme shock and wild joy. He discovered that after that venting session in the morning, his body seemed to have grown stronger once again. The meridians that were originally somewhat blocked due to old age seemed to have been washed clean by that aggressive energy, becoming incredibly smooth. He even felt that he could clearly see flows of heat slowly circulating within his body.
A divine item. This is absolutely a higher level divine item than the burgers and cola. Wang Gensheng trembled with excitement. He immediately understood my painstaking efforts. Burgers and cola were for accumulating qi, used to build a good bodily foundation and store qi in blood. This spicy pepper chicken, however, was a breakthrough pill. It used incredibly aggressive medicinal power to forcibly break through a cultivator's bottlenecks and transform the accumulated qi in blood into purer power. And the frenzy and desire for battle produced after consumption were the trials one must undergo during a breakthrough, the heart demon, only by venting the excess berserk energy through combat while maintaining one's nature.
Could one truly make this power their own?
My lord actually taught us such a secret cultivation method. Wang Gensheng looked toward the county office, the admiration and awe in his eyes reaching an unprecedented peak. He felt that I wasn't some sage with a long-term vision. I was simply an immortal who had descended to save all living beings. Get up! Stop sleeping! Wang Gensheng roared at the people scattered all over the ground. One after another, the crowd woke up, everyone discovering the startling changes in their bodies. I feel like I could punch a cow to death with one blow. Me too. I feel like all my old injuries are healed. This chicken is too miraculous. After Wang Gensheng's interpretation, the way everyone looked at me
completely changed. If it was fanatical before, it was now pious. They looked at me as if they were looking at a walking deity among men. Their gazes made me feel uneasy, so I could only cough twice and announce, "This spicy pepper chicken will be a rest day special from now on. The next time will be in 10 days. Actually, the system rule was once every 7 days, but I was scared and decided to stretch the cycle a bit to prevent this group from going crazy every few days.
Everyone responded in unison. There wasn't a single objection. In their view, for such a divine item, being able to enjoy it once every 10 days was only natural. At the same time, in Yunzhong County, 100 miles away from Shuofang County Magistrate Zhang Qingji was looking at the secret report in his hand with a worried face. Is what you're saying true? That new magistrate of Shuofang County took 3,000 refugees and wiped out Black Wind Fortress? He asked the merchant below who had fled back from Shuofang. It's absolutely true, my lord. The merchant said with a long face. I saw it with my own eyes. That scene was too terrifying.
Those people in Shuofang County were like madmen. Each one had immense strength and didn't even flinch when a blade struck them. The 800 bandits of Black Wind Fortress were slaughtered clean in less than an hour. Zhang Qingji gasped. He knew the strength of Black Wind Fortress. Even he, with the regular army of Yunzhong County, didn't dare to provoke them easily. What was the background of that guy named Lin Yuan to have such capability? And,
my lord, that Lin Yuan is filthy rich, the merchant added. He feeds those refugees white flour cakes with large pieces of meat and gives them a kind of black sweet water to drink. After Black Wind Fortress was destroyed, he swallowed all the gold, silver treasures, horses, and weapons. White flour meat cakes, black sweet water? Zhang Qingji frowned, his brow locked tight. Such treatment was simply unheard of. His heart suddenly became active. It was common knowledge that Shuofang County was dirt poor. There was no way that Lin Yuan could produce money out of thin air. The only explanation was that he had some great power supporting him behind the scenes. Now that he had also swallowed the wealth of Black Wind Fortress, wasn't he even richer? The more Zhang Chengji thought about it, the greedier his heart became. Although Yunzhong County was wealthier than Shuofeng, life was still hard. Imperial taxes were heavy, he had a large family and several hundred county soldiers to support, and money was always tight. If he could squeeze some money out of that Lin Yuan, a wicked plan formed in his mind. He didn't dare to send troops directly to fight. After all, the precedent of Black Wind Fortress was right there. But he could send someone to investigate.
Someone come. Zhang Chengji struck the gavel. 2 bailiffs walked up. Immediately summoned my nephew-in-law, County Lieutenant Li San, to see me. Soon, a shifty-eyed, slick-looking young man walked in. He was Li San, who had become the county lieutenant through his connection with Zhang Chengji. "Uncle, you were looking for me?" Li San asked with a grin. "I'm giving you a chance to make a fortune." Zhang Chengji lowered his voice. "Will you do it?"
"Of course I'll do it." Li San's eyes lit up at the word fortune. Zhang Chengji then told him the story of Shuofeng County, with extra embellishments. That Lin Yuan is just a lucky brat. Relying on a few mud-legged peasants who aren't afraid to die, he doesn't know the height of the sky or the depth of the earth. Take 50 good men and pay him a visit. Say that Black Wind Fortress used to pay tribute to our Yunzhong County every year, and since he destroyed the fortress, this tribute money should now be paid by him.
Zhang Jingji smiled sinisterly.
If he's sensible, have him hand over 3,000 taels of silver. If he's not, show him some colors. Remember, don't make a big scene, just scare him a bit. He's just a rootless little magistrate, he won't dare do much. Got it, uncle, just you wait and see. Li San patted his chest and agreed immediately. In his view, this was a windfall falling from the sky.
Sending 50 elite county soldiers to scare a little magistrate in a backwater place. It would be a piece of cake. Thus, 10 days later, while the people of Shuofeng County were looking forward to their second spicy pepper chicken feast with great anticipation, Li San arrived at the gates of Shuofeng County with 50 leather-armored soldiers on tall horses, acting all high and mighty. At this time, piles of spicy pepper chicken wrapped in oil paper were already laid out on the open ground by the city gate. The aggressive aroma wafted far away. Over 3,000 people were lining up, waiting eagerly for me to give the order to eat. Li San couldn't help but swallow his saliva when he smelled that aroma. He cursed inwardly. What kind of stuff is this poor place eating? It smells pretty good.
He rode forward and, pointing his horsewhip at a man maintaining order at the city gate, shouted arrogantly, "Who is the person in charge here? Tell your magistrate to crawl out and see me." As soon as he finished speaking, the atmosphere on the scene changed instantly. Everyone's gaze shifted from the chicken to him. Those 3,000 plus gazes were cold and filled with undisguised murderous intent. A large man at the very front of the line slowly turned his head.
He had just received a steaming package of spicy pepper chicken from Wang Gensheng's hands and was about to enjoy it. He looked at Li San, then at the chicken in his hand, and his brow furrowed. "What did you just say?" he asked in a muffled voice. "I said tell your magistrate to crawl out." Li San still hadn't realized the danger and remained arrogant. "If you delay my business of making a fortune, can you afford the consequences?" The large man fell silent. He carefully handed the chicken in his hand to a companion behind him and said softly, "Help me hold this, don't let it get cold." Then he suddenly looked up, his blood-red eyes staring dead at Li San. The next second, he charged out like an enraged bull. "Who the hell dares to touch my spicy pepper chicken?" Li San was terrified by the scene in front of him. He only saw a man built like a bear charging toward him with bare fists, letting out a roar he couldn't understand. The speed was unlike a human's. The horse beneath him also seemed to feel that startling killing intent. It let out a terrified neigh and reared up on its hind legs, throwing Li San directly to the ground. Li San was dazed from the fall and hadn't even climbed up yet, before he felt a huge shadow looming over him. He looked up and met those blood-red eyes filled with violence and murderous intent. What do you want to do?" Li San was scared out of his wits. His crotch felt warm as the smell of urine instantly spread. "I am the county lieutenant of Yunzhong County. My uncle is Lord Zhang Chengji." The large man completely ignored his shouting. He just reached out a hand as large as a cattail leaf fan and, like grabbing a chick, pinched Li San by the neck and lifted him off the ground. Li San's feet left the ground and he struggled desperately, his face turning the color of pig liver due to lack of oxygen. The 50 soldiers behind him were also stunned by this sudden turn. At this moment, they all stopped receiving their food, turned around, and stared at them coldly with looks meant for dead people. Those gazes were more piercing than a winter wind. The 50 soldiers felt like sheep surrounded by 3,000 wolves, losing even the courage to draw their blades. "Stop!" Just then, an old but vigorous voice rang out. Wang Gensheng, leaning on a cane, walked slowly out of the crowd. He first looked at Li San, who was being held in midair, and was almost about to stop breathing, and then glanced at the group of soldiers who were quiet as cicadas in winter. When the large man saw Wang Gensheng, the violence in his eyes diminished slightly, but the strength in his hand didn't relax at all. "Village chief, this dog thing disturbed us while we were eating the Lord's celestial food," he said in a muffled voice. The reason was so sufficient that it was impossible to refute. "I know." Wang Gensheng nodded, then turned to the group of soldiers and asked calmly, "Who are you? What business do you have in Shuofeng County?" A soldier who seemed to be the leader jumped off his horse trembling, cupped his hands to Wang Gensheng, his voice shaking.
Old sir, we are soldiers from Yunzhong County. We have come by the order of our county lieutenant, to visit Lord Lin Yuan. To visit? Wang Jiansheng sneered. Is this how you visit? You come here talking big and disturbing our county.
And even want our Lord Magistrate to crawl out and see you? His voice wasn't loud, but every word was like a hammer striking the hearts of those county soldiers. Wang Gensheng didn't answer immediately. He turned his head toward the county office. I had long been disturbed by the commotion outside and was hiding behind the door, peeking out with half a head. When I saw that big man lift a grown man with one hand, I almost popped my eyes out. Is this the power after eating spicy pepper chicken? This is too ridiculous. Seeing Wang Gensheng looking at me, his gaze clearly asking for instructions, my heart skipped a beat, asking me, how would I know what to do? If we killing them would mean a total falling out with Yunzhong County. Yunzhong County is much harder to deal with than Blackwind Fortress. They at least have legitimate government troops, but if we just let them go, it would be too frustrating, and it would make Shufang County look easy to bully. Wouldn't everyone want to come and take a stomp later? My brain spun rapidly. Got it. I made a gesture to Wang Gensheng that I thought was very clear. First, I pointed my finger at the soldiers and their horses and made a take-it-over motion. Then, I pointed at the choked Li San and waved my hand hard, making a get-lost motion. My meaning was clear. Keep their money and horses as compensation for mental distress, and then kick him out. This was wisdom I learned from dealing with thugs in my past life. Pay to avoid disaster, but also let the other party know you're not to be trifled with. Wang Gensheng was stunned by my gesture at first, then his whole body trembled, and his eyes were instantly filled with incredible admiration and awe. He had understood again. What a brilliant method, what a broad-minded spirit. I pointed at the soldiers and horses, meaning to take their mounts and dismount them. This is weakening the enemy's strength to grow our own. Then I pointed at the culprit Li San and waved my hand, meaning to let him go. Why let him go? It's not out of mercy. It's a tactic. My lord is releasing the long line to catch the big fish. A whole set of follow-up plots immediately formed in Wang Gensheng's mind. This Li San is the Yunzhong magistrate's nephew. After he goes back, he will surely embellish his report. That Zhang Chengji, greedy and stupid, will inevitably fly into a rage and exhaust the entire county's military force to attack us. And my lord is just waiting for him to come to Shuofan County. He is playing a very big game of chess. The entire landscape of the world is likely within his calculations. Thinking of this, Wang Gensheng's hands began to tremble with excitement. How fortunate it is to follow such a heroic lord. He took a deep breath, suppressed the excitement in his heart, turned to the large man still holding Li San, and said in a deep voice, "Release him." Although the man was unwilling, he obediently let go. Li San slumped on the ground like a puddle of mud, gasping for breath, his crotch a wet mess. "Leave your horses and all your valuables," Wang Gensheng pointed at the 50 soldiers and said in an unquestionable tone. "Then take him with you. Tell your magistrate Zhang Chengji that Shuofan County is not a place where he can act wild. This time, Lord Lin is merciful and spares your dog lives. If there is a next time, I will ensure not a blade of grass is left in Yunzhong County." Half of Wang Gensheng's words were his own, and half were his interpretation of my divine will. He felt that only this would maximize the provocation to Zhang Chengji and make him bring his men to their deaths as soon as possible. How could those 50 soldiers dare to resist? One by one, they obediently surrendered their sabers, and even took off their slightly better leather armor, piling it on the ground. Then, several of them picked up the terrified Li San and scrambled back toward Yunzhong County. Watching their fleeing figures, the people of Shufan County erupted into earth-shattering cheers. "Lord Magistrate is mighty, the county army is mighty." Behind the door, I looked at this scene and nodded with satisfaction. Not bad, not bad. Old man Wang is still reliable. He perfectly executed my intention. We got the benefits, established our prestige, and didn't let things escalate uncontrollably. Perfect. I turned back into the county office with satisfaction, ready to study. Wang Gensheng had already invited all of Yunzhong County's military forces to visit Shuofang County on his behalf. And the soldiers of the county army who were cheering just now had also understood Wang Gensheng's interpretation. Each of them was rubbing their hands together, far from having any fear of the upcoming war. Their eyes were full of anticipation and excitement. Great, another battle to fight. Last time at Blackwind Fortress wasn't enough. This time we're fighting government troops. If we win, will we get to eat something even better than spicy pepper chicken? Definitely, following the Lord means meat in every meal, and a fight every day. This life is so good, even an immortal wouldn't trade it. A weirdly bellicose atmosphere permeated the entire Shuofang County, only I was still immersed in the sweet dream of peaceful development and making a fortune in silence. The visit from Yunzhong County was just a small episode to me. I collected 50 horses and a bunch of miscellaneous weapons and silver, and drove away a swarm of flies. That was that. I didn't take Wang Gensheng's not a blade of grass left threat to heart at all, treating it as just a routine threat. In my view, as long as that Yunzhong magistrate's brain was functioning, after seeing the simple and honest folk customs of Shuofang County, he should choose to live in peace. So I continued my leisurely life as a zookeeper, checking the bustling infrastructure site every day,
distributing burgers and cola on time, and spicy pepper chicken once every 10 days, then returning to the county office to lie down and study how to exchange the captured treasures for more practical things. However, what I didn't know was that my group of death-sworn soldiers had already begun a crazy self-evolution completely without my knowledge. Wang Gensheng, the old village chief who had been completely brainwashed by my imperial aura, was now essentially the head drill sergeant and political commissar of the county army. He had divided the 3,000+ people into more detailed groups. First was the personnel composition. The original 3,000 refugees were the absolute core of the county army, with the highest loyalty and the best physiques, known as the original followers. Later, the 100+ bandits from Blackwind Fortress, after ideological reform, actually just starving them for 3 days, and then giving them burgers and cola, were now all crying and shouting to serve Lord Lin unto death. They were organized as auxiliaries. Recently, news that one could eat their fill and even have meat in Shuofang County spread like it had wings. Regarding these people, Wang Gensheng established a strict political vetting process. Newcomers couldn't join the county army or eat burgers immediately. They had to drink thin porridge first and do basic chores, like cleaning garbage and building water channels. This stage was called the observation period. Only those who performed well and showed enough worship for Lord Lin's glorious deeds could be approved to enter the reserves. Reserves could eat burgers but didn't get cola. They needed to complete higher intensity labor and receive daily ideological education classes from Wang Gensheng. That is, after listening to Wang Gensheng brag about how resourceful, brilliant, benevolent, and great I was, only those who passed all the reserve assessments could finally swear an oath of loyalty to become members of the county faction and enjoy the official treatment of burgers plus cola. After this whole process, those who remained were all fanatical, die-hard loyalists who were beyond grateful and worshipped me. I knew nothing about this. I only noticed that the population of the county seemed to have increased recently. The number of burgers to be distributed every day was also increasing. I asked Wang Gensheng about it, and he just said, "My lord's name of benevolence has spread far and wide, and displaced people are all coming to seek refuge. This is a sign of a king's path." I was left utterly confused, but looking at the system panel, the population under my rule was indeed skyrocketing. This related to unlocking new menus later, so it was a good thing. Thus, I didn't ask further and tacitly approved of Wang Gensheng's recruitment. Besides personnel management, Wang Gensheng also carried out major reforms in military training. He found that simply practicing strength and fighting each other was too inefficient. So, based on the core theory of burgers for strength, cola for recovery, and spicy chicken for berserking, he developed a brand new exclusive cultivation method for the county faction. He divided the county faction into 3 parts. The first part was the heavy armor Modao team, composed of 1,000 of the tallest and strongest veterans in the county faction. Their daily training involved wearing the crude armor captured from Blackwind Stronghold, which had been repaired and reinforced, and lifting the heaviest weapons, mostly modified long-handled hammers and axes, to practice hacking and charging. Their meal standards were the highest, with 1 more burger per day than the others. Wang Gensheng believed they were the vanguard of the county faction and must be supplied with the most sufficient blood and energy. The second part was the sharpshooter unit, composed of 500 soldiers with sharp eyes and steady arms. Their weapons were the bows and arrows left by Blackwind Stronghold. Unfortunately, there weren't enough bows and the quality was poor, so Wang Gensheng took them into the mountains and had them practice throwing with stones, requiring them to hit a moving rabbit accurately within 50 paces. They would only be considered qualified when they could throw stones as accurately as using a bow and arrow. To train their eyesight, Wang Gensheng applied for a special batch of meals, half a bottle of cola extra per day. He believed that drinking a fresh brew like cola would make one feel refreshed and would surely benefit vision. I originally wanted to refuse this ridiculous application, but looking at Wang Gensheng's fanatical expression of "everything I do is for your great cause, my lord," by some stroke of fate, I absent-mindedly agreed. The third part, which also had the most people, was the County Array Assault Battalion. The remaining people, including those collaborators and the newly joined official members, were all in this battalion. Their task was to provide support and serve as the main force in the construction of the county town during wartime. They would follow behind the heavy armor Modao team, responsible for finishing off enemies, clearing the battlefield, and acting as cannon fodder to overwhelm the enemy with human wave tactics. Of course, Wang Gensheng wouldn't use the word cannon fodder. He called them the rock, the most solid foundation of the county faction. Their training was the most diverse. They practiced a bit of everything, sparring, charging, and learning to kill with various strange tools. Just like that, entirely without my knowledge, a highly organized army with a clear division of labor and its own set of bizarre cultivation theories quietly took shape in Shuofang County. Every day they were training like crazy, building like crazy, and frantically interpreting my every hint. For example, I felt that people defecating everywhere in the county was too unsanitary and could easily trigger a plague. So, I had Wang Gensheng organize people to dig many public toilets in the city. In Wang Gensheng's eyes, this move was another far-sighted chess move. "Look, the Lord had us dig so many deep and large pits. What are these?" These are called hidden soldier bunkers. Once the enemy enters the city, we can use these tunnels
to launch surprise attacks on the enemy. This is called street fighting. The Lord has even thought out the tactics for us after the city falls. What profound meaning.
Consequently, the soldiers of the county faction dug the toilets with even more enthusiasm than repairing the city walls. For another example, I found that no one knew how to raise the captured horses, and several had died, which pained me immensely. So I found a few people who looked clever and put them in charge of raising the horses, even giving them special meals of an extra half burger a day. In Wang Gensheng's eyes, this was an even more significant signal.
Cavalry. The Lord is going to form our county faction's cavalry unit. Cavalry is so precious, only the elite of the elite can handle it. The Lord has already begun preparing for us to pursue kings to the north and contend for the central plains in the future. Thus, those few selected grooms instantly became the most envied objects in the county faction. They valued the horses more than their own lives, sleeping with the horses every day and talking to them.
Trying to realize the supreme realm of man and horse as one. Watching all this, I only felt that this world was becoming more and more surreal. I felt like a hands-off manager who didn't need to do anything, while my employees automatically and spontaneously exceeded the KPIs several times over. This fully automated management style even gave me, a black-hearted capitalist, a slight sense of dread. They wouldn't really tie me to the dragon chair one day, would they? I shuddered and quickly stuffed a large mouthful of burger into my mouth. Forget it, I won't think about it. If the sky falls, there are taller people to hold it up. As long as there are enough burgers, they probably won't do anything to me. I've been a bit bored lately. The training of the county faction and the construction of the county town were proceeding in an orderly fashion under Wang Gensheng's automated brain supplementing management style, even exceeding my expectations. Every day, besides distributing food at fixed times and places, I basically had nothing to do. Although this kind of life, eating, sleeping, and occasionally inspecting work, was what I had dreamed of in my past life. Now that I was living it, I felt like something was missing. No, I have to find something to do. I sat on the threshold of the county yamen, munching on a burger and looking at the dusty construction site outside, muttering to myself, I'm a county magistrate after all. I can't really just be a hands-off manager. I began to think about what else I, as a modern person, could do for this backward ancient county town.
Soon, I found a new focus for my work: hygiene. The entire county town was permeated with a sour, foul smell. Every time I went out, I had to pinch my nose. This won't do, I frowned. In such a dirty and messy environment, a plague would break out sooner or later. By then, never mind conquering the world, everyone would likely be dead. I didn't want my burger cult base to turn into a giant refined garbage dump, so this black-hearted capitalist magistrate transformed into the director of the Patriotic Health Campaign Committee. I called Wang Gensheng and several minor leaders back to the Yamen. Today we are going to discuss a very serious and important issue. My expression was solemn and my tone heavy. Wang Gensheng and the others immediately straightened their backs with solemn expressions. They were all guessing in their hearts. Is the Lord going to announce some earth-shattering strategic deployment again? Is he going to attack Yonzhong County? Or is he sending troops north to meet the barbarians?
This issue concerns the life and death of every one of us, and the future of our Shuofang County. I continued to build up the atmosphere. Everyone's heart was in their throat. Then I slapped the table and shouted with all my might. We must immediately and urgently launch a vigorous grand cleaning campaign throughout the entire county. Huh?
Wang Gensheng and several leaders were all dumbfounded. Gee, grand cleaning. They looked at each other with expressions full of confusion and bewilderment. After all that, the matter of life and death you mentioned was just sweeping. My lord, you mean, you want us to go clean up? Wang Gensheng confirmed cautiously. He felt like something might be wrong with his ears. Yes, cleaning, I said decisively. From today on, this official will enact the Shuofang County cleanliness regulations. I pulled out a propaganda poster I had stayed up all night drawing, which used stick figures to show a cross over a little person littering. First, littering is strictly prohibited. All domestic waste must be thrown into designated garbage pits. Second, dumping wastewater everywhere is strictly prohibited. Every household must dig a drainage ditch in front of their door to guide wastewater into the river outside the city. Third, an environmental inspection team will be established to patrol the city every day. If anyone is found violating the cleanliness regulations, for the first offense they will be sentenced to sweep the streets for 1 day. For the second, to clean toilets for 3 days. For the third, their rations will be halved for a month. After announcing my regulations, I felt like I looked incredibly cool with this combination of measures. It would be a miracle if I couldn't cure these ancient people of their unsanitary habits. However, my passionate speech was met with dead silence. Wang Gensheng and the others all looked at me with eyes that said, "Has the Lord taken the wrong medicine?" After a long while, one leader couldn't help but speak up. "My lord, what does this grand cleaning have to do with our life and death?" "Exactly. They were all just worthless lives who grew up rolling in the mud. Did they care if there was trash on the ground? Wouldn't that time be better spent practicing killing techniques or moving a few more stones to repair the walls?" I knew they wouldn't understand. I sighed and decided to change to a way they could understand. "Silence," I shouted sharply. "Do you think this official is having you do a grand cleaning just for the sake of cleanliness?" Everyone's spirits lifted. Here it comes. The Lord's deep meaning interpretation segment is here again. You only see the trash on the ground, but you don't see the hidden danger behind the trash. My eyes became deep and my voice was lowered, full of mystery.
Hidden danger? Wang Gensheng and the others perked up their ears. Exactly, I continued my nonsense. Think about it, what kind of important place is our Shuofang County now? It is the very foundation of this official. Our enemies, such as Yunzhong County and the northern barbarians, will they send spies and assassins to infiltrate our city? They definitely will. They will. Everyone answered in unison. And what are spies and assassins best at? Disguise and hiding? Well said. I slapped my thigh. Then think again. If our county town is full of trash heaps and smelly ditches everywhere, doesn't that provide the perfect hiding spots for those spies? If he lies in a trash heap, who can find him? If he crawls into a foul ditch, who can find him? Wang Gensheng and the others shuddered, suddenly enlightened. Conversely, if we keep the county town clean and spotless, wouldn't any stranger or any suspicious trace be obvious at a glance and have nowhere to hide? This is called clearing the fields and strengthening the walls. No, this is called urban anti-espionage. A leader who had read a few books shouted excitedly, "My lord is brilliant, so that's why. A clean environment."
We were dull-witted and only saw the surface filth. But we didn't see the fatal threat you saw hidden beneath it. This move by the Lord makes Shuofang as solid as a rock without expending a single soldier. Such wisdom is simply miraculous. Watching them enter another state of collective brain supplementing climax, I silently gave myself a thumbs up in my heart. Master math, physics and chemistry, and you can travel the world without fear. Master logic, and you can fool ancient people without fail. Furthermore, I decided to add more fuel to the fire. A clean environment not only guards against external enemies, but also strengthens ourselves. Think about it. We eat fresh food and drink fresh brews. What pure energy is accumulated in our bodies? If we live in filth all day and inhale turbid air, will it affect the efficiency of our refining of the immortal stones? Will it make our energy no longer pure? These words had an even greater impact on them than the previous urban anti-espionage theory. Right, they were death soldiers, they were cultivators, and they relied on the Lord's immortal stones to cultivate. For cultivators, the environment is the most important thing. Don't the heroes in storybooks all cultivate in immortal mountains and blessed lands where spiritual energy is abundant? Although they didn't have immortal mountains now, they at least shouldn't be living in a trash heap. It will affect our energy, my lord. We were wrong. Wang Gensheng knelt down with a thud, his face full of guilt and lingering fear. We only thought about cultivation and battle results but neglected the environment, failing the Lord's painstaking efforts. We deserve 10,000 deaths. Please rest assured, my lord, from this day forward, we will execute these hygiene regulations as military orders. If anyone dares to disobey, you won't even need to speak, we will personally throw them into the cesspool. Yes, we'll clean Shuofang County until it's cleaner than a girl's face. Looking at the impassioned crowd, I smiled with satisfaction. Done. I believe that from today on, Shuofang County will become a model city in the entire Great Qian dynasty, and even in all of ancient history. To realize waste sorting and sewage treatment, as the county magistrate, I could be considered to have made an outstanding contribution to ancient public health. With my hands behind my back, I walked out of the yamen with a measured pace, feeling satisfied. I planned to go and inspect my sanitary city construction project. I didn't notice at all that after I turned around, Wang Gensheng and several leaders gathered again to start a new round of learning and comprehension. Do you think the Lord's grand cleaning this time has an even deeper meaning? There must be. Every decision of the Lord has at least 3 levels of deep meaning. I understand. Think about it. If we clean the city and those spies can't get in, what will they do? They can only monitor from outside the city, but the area outside the city is a wilderness with nowhere to hide. This way, won't all the enemy's movements be entirely within our control? The Lord is trying to shift the battlefield from inside the city to outside, keeping the initiative firmly in his own hands. Not only that, think again. We eat fresh food every day. Our bodies are strong and free from illness. But what about the enemy? They eat mundane food and live in filthy environments. We make the inside of the city clean, but the outside gets dirtier and dirtier. As we prosper and they decline, our people get healthier while the spies sent by the enemy might fall ill before they even start acting. This is called subduing the enemy without fighting. This is so terrifyingly formidable. The Lord even calculated the enemy's health. This game of chess is played on too large a scale. A group of people looked at my slightly thin back, the awe in their eyes beyond words. A seemingly ordinary light carriage, pulled by 2 sturdy horses, was traveling on the official road leading to Shuofang County. The official road was long out of repair, full of pits and hollows, and the carriage jolted violently. Inside the carriage, a woman dressed in light purple martial attire with a blue veil over her face was resting with her eyes closed. Although she was sitting, her posture was as upright as a pine tree. Even in the jolting carriage, she remained as steady as a rock. She was the only sister of the current Great Qian Empress, Li Fengyi, Princess Anlo Li Qingzhao. However, her current identity was the second daughter of a wealthy merchant family from Jiangnan who loved traveling. Sitting next to her was a burly, cold-faced, middle-aged man. He appeared to be the head of the guards, but was actually Chen Qingji, the commander of the Yulin Guards accompanying her on this trip. Your Highness, in another 30 li, we will reach the borders of Shuofang County, Chen Qingji said in a deep voice. Li Qingzhao slowly opened her eyes. Those eyes hidden behind the veil were as cold as the moon yet as sharp as a knife. What is the situation? Her voice was crisp and pleasant, yet carried an innate majesty.
Your Highness, the closer we get to Shuofeng, the stranger the situation becomes. Chen Qingzhi's brow was furrowed. We encountered several groups of refugees along the way, but they weren't fleeing south. Instead, they were taking their families north towards Shuofeng County. Li Qingzhao became interested. Why are they going to Shuofeng? My subordinates sent people to inquire. They said they heard the new magistrate of Shuofeng County is a living bodhisattva who descended to earth. Not only does he take in refugees, but he also provides full meals. Every meal is white steamed buns plus meat. When Chen Qingzhi said this, he felt it was a bit white buns and meat, full meals every time, in a disaster year, let alone a remote county town. Even the wealthy families in the capital wouldn't dare to be so extravagant. Living bodhisattva? White flour and meat? Li Qingzhao's lips curled into a cold arc. It seems this person knows very well how to win people's hearts. Your Highness, this whole matter is strange. How can a poor county support more and more refugees? And where did his 3,000 demon god death soldiers come from? I worry that there might be a power we don't know about supporting him from behind, perhaps even spies from the northern barbarians using this method to recruit soldiers for them, intending to coordinate from within and without. Chen Qingzhi voiced his concerns, which was also the view of most people at court. Li Qingzhao didn't speak. She lifted the carriage curtain and looked out the window. The further north they went, the more desolate the scene became. The fields were cracked, the villages had been empty for a long time, and the few villagers they occasionally saw were sallow, thin, and had numb eyes. This was the current state of Great Qian, in such a hell, the sudden appearance of a heaven where people could eat their fill. No wonder those refugees would flock there like moths to a flame. Whether he is a man or a ghost, a saint or a world-shaking demon, we will know once we see for ourselves. Li Qingzhao lowered the curtain. Her voice returned to calm. Pass down the order. After entering the city, no one is allowed to reveal their identity. Everything will be according to my command. Chen Qingzhi, you take a few people and pretend to be ordinary guards. The rest of the people will camp 10 li outside the city. Do not approach the county town without my order. By your command, the carriage continued forward, and soon the outline of a city appeared on the horizon. That was Shuofeng County. The closer they got, the more startled Li Qingzhao and Chen Qingzhi became. What did they see? They saw that outside that dilapidated county town, thousands of raggedly dressed but high-spirited laborers were working in full swing on construction. Some were raising and thickening the city walls. The height and thickness of those walls were already approaching the specifications of some prefectural capitals. Some were digging trenches outside the city. Judging by the width and depth, they were clearly the prototype of a moat. Further away, there were people leveling the land and building roads. Thousands of people were working simultaneously on the entire site, yet it didn't look messy at all. Instead, it was orderly and full of amazing vitality. How did this look like a remote little county that had just experienced drought and banditry? This was clearly a rising military fortress. This. Chen Qingzhi watched, dumbfounded. How much money and grain would be needed to support such a massive project? And these people, they don't look like hungry refugees at all. Li Qingzhao's gaze also became incredibly solemn. She saw the physiques of those laborers. Although they wore rags, they were all burly with solid muscles and a healthy glow on their faces. They carried giant stones weighing hundreds of caddies, yet walked as if they were carrying nothing. Such physiques were rare even among the Yulin guards in the capital. Demon God Death Soldiers, the 4 words surfaced in her mind again. It seemed the secret letter had not only not exaggerated, but had even held back. Just as they approached the city gate, an even stranger scene occurred. Lunch. With a long shout, thousands of people on the construction site immediately put down their tools. Then, with an efficiency nearly like that of an army, they quickly lined up in the open space in front of the city gate. Following that, wheelbarrows were pushed out from the city, piled high with things wrapped in paper and bottles filled with a black liquid. A rich aroma of meat mixed with the scent of bread instantly wafted through the air. Li Qingzhao and Chen Qingzhi couldn't help but sniff the air. They saw each of those laborers receive a paper-wrapped bundle and a bottle of black water, then sit down right there and begin to eat ravenously. Li Qingzhao's gaze was fixed on a burly man not far from her. She saw that man finish one paper bundle in just 2 or 3 bites, then run to get a second and a third. He ate a full 5 of those white flour and meat items, and finished 2 bottles of black water before letting out a satisfied burp. Chen Qingzhi's mouth was open wide enough to fit an egg. 5 big meat pies and 2 bottles of water, he stammered. Your Highness, even the hungriest glutton in the army couldn't eat that much in one meal. And they are actually providing an unlimited supply. He could no longer understand anything he was seeing. This was no longer just a question of money and grain. It simply defied common sense. Li Qingzhao's heart also sank. She had read extensively since childhood yet had never heard of any food that could give an ordinary person such a terrifying appetite and physique. What on earth was the origin of this Lin Yuan and the food in his hands? Let's enter the city, she said in a deep voice, suppressing the shock in her heart. The carriage slowly drove toward the city gate. The soldiers guarding the city stopped them. These soldiers also had burly statures and sharp eyes, wearing crude leather armor. But that aura of being unafraid of death gave even Chen Qingzhi, the commander of the Yulin Guards, a slight sense of pressure. Who are you? Where are you from? And where are you going? A soldier asked expressionlessly. Officer, we are a merchant caravan from the south, hoping to enter the city to rest and purchase some goods. The driver, a veteran Yulin Guard, quickly said with a smile as he handed over a small piece of silver. The soldier didn't even look at the silver, just said coldly, "You may enter the city, but you must follow our Shuofeng rules."
Namely, the Shuofeng County cleanliness regulations I have enacted. Littering will be punished with sweeping the streets. Spitting everywhere will be punished with cleaning toilets. After entering the city, all actions must be reported to the grid managers, otherwise you will face the consequences.
The soldier recited word for word. Chen Qingji was utterly confused. Littering, toilets, grid managers. What kind of messy rules are these? He was about to lose his temper, but was stopped by Li Qingzhao's gaze. "We have noted them,"
Li Qingzhao said calmly. Only then did the soldier wave his hand to let them into the city. As the carriage drove into the city, the two people inside were once again shocked by the scene before them. If the outside was a bustling construction site, then the inside was an incredibly clean residential area. The streets were swept spotless, without even a fallen leaf to be seen. Neatly dug drainage ditches ran along both sides of the road. Every certain distance, there was a waste collection point enclosed by wooden boards. They even saw several thatched huts with public toilet signs hanging on them. Several people wearing uniform vests, actually just slightly better rags with the word inspector written on the back, were patrolling the street. Whenever they saw someone who wanted to, they would carry out severe education. Except for having more people. The entire county town was actually cleaner and more orderly than the most prosperous Zhuke street in the capital. Chen Qingji felt his worldview being repeatedly crushed and reorganized today. Is this still the mortal world? He muttered to himself. Li Qingzhao didn't speak. In her heart, a storm even more violent than Chen Qingji's was raging. This kind of infrastructure, with full public participation, this almost obsessive hygiene standard, this militarized management model. This was definitely not something an ordinary county magistrate could achieve. Behind this, there must be a complete and mature set of thoughts and theories she had never seen before supporting it. That Lin Yuan, who exactly is he? Li Qingzhao felt an unprecedented curiosity and wariness toward him. She decided she had to find this person as soon as possible and see for herself exactly what kind of holy being he was. The carriage drove slowly on the somewhat excessively clean street. Chen Qingji lifted a corner of the curtain, his eyes wide like copper bells and his mouth hanging open. Your Highness, look there!" He lowered his voice, pointing his finger at an inspector at a street corner who was talking to someone. "That person, I saw him outside the city just now. He could carry 200 caddies of grain by himself, and now he's actually scolding someone for spitting. And that one over there repairing the roof. He just ate 6 meat pies, 6. And he's still working now like he has inexhaustible strength." Chen Qingji felt like he was going crazy in his eyes. These burly men with immense strength and terrifying appetites were each precious soldiers, killing machines on the battlefield. But in Shuofeng County, they were actually doing the work of repairing houses, sweeping streets, and managing sanitation. This was too wasteful. It was simply a reckless waste of God's gifts. Li Qingzhao didn't speak. Her gaze swept over everyone along the street. She found that everyone here, whether it was the laborers working, the inspectors patrolling, or even the children playing by the street, had an expression on their faces she had never seen anywhere else. It wasn't numbness, it wasn't despair, but a kind of satisfaction and fanaticism. The way they looked at each other and the way they looked at this city carried an almost religious devotion, as if they weren't building a county town but a holy city that belonged to them. "Stop the carriage," Li Qingzhao suddenly said. The carriage stopped next to a minor clerk who was handing out tools. Li Qingzhao handed a small piece of silver from the window and asked in a gentle voice, "Brother, we have just arrived and would like to ask where your county magistrate Lord Lin is currently." The clerk took the silver, initially wanting to decline. But seeing Li Qingzhao's cold eyes, he took it as if by some unknown force. He scratched his head, with an expression of both pride and worship on his face. "You're looking for our Lord Lin? Plenty of people come looking for our Lord," he grinned, showing a row of white teeth. "But our Lord's movements are mysterious. He's not someone just anyone can see. Is Lord Lin's official business so busy?" Li Qingzhao asked nonchalantly. "You bet." The clerk puffed out his chest. Speaking of the Lord, he seemed to have endless things to say. "Our Lord is a living bodhisattva who descended to earth. You didn't see it a month ago. We were all refugees on the brink of death from hunger. It was the Lord who took us in and gave us food. Did you smell that aroma? They're called burgers, pies made of white flour with a big piece of meat inside. And that black fresh brew called cola, one sip and your whole body feels energized." He gestured exaggeratedly to show the size of the burger, speaking until he was almost drooling. Chen Qingji frowned as he listened, thinking to himself, "It's this same rhetoric again. It seems this guy's brainwashing skills are indeed top-notch." Li Qingzhao, however, heard something different. She asked, "Brother, do you eat these burgers every day?" "Of course. 3 meals a day, all you can eat. As long as you work for the Lord, you can eat your fill." The clerk spoke as if it were only natural. "Our Lord said that if you work, you must be able to eat. This is called, what was it again? Oh right, this is called distribution according to work." Distribution according to work. Li Qingzhao silently noted down this term she had never heard before. "Then do you find the daily work exhausting? Is Lord Lin strict with you?" She continued to probe. This question seemed to open the clerk's floodgates. "Exhausting. Of course it's exhausting. We have to work 12 double hours a day now. But the Lord is benevolent. After 10 days of work, we even get a day off."
Chen Qingji nearly fainted upon hearing this. Working 12 double hours a day and getting 1 day off after 10, this was called benevolent. This was clearly working people to death. This Lin Yuan was indeed a demon king who exploited human lives. But the clerk's next words made Chen Qingji's world once again collapse. We actually thought the Lord was too benevolent at first. Only letting us work 12 double hours and even giving us holidays, isn't that delaying the building of the city walls for the Lord? Isn't it delaying us from building our home? We jointly petitioned the Lord to let us work 24 hours a day all year round, but the Lord firmly refused. A look of regret and confusion appeared on the clerk's face. The Lord said that the body is the capital of the revolution and that there must be a balance between tension and relaxation. He called it the way of nourishing the troops. AI, the Lord's realm is too high, us mortals simply can't grasp it. Chen Qingji and Li Qingzhao, the two people in the carriage, fell into complete silence. They felt their brains weren't sufficient. A group of people begging their master to let them work overtime and work all year round, and that master actually refused, citing the way of nourishing the troops as the reason. What kind of people were these, and what kind of person was that Lin Yuan? Then do you know where Lord Lin is now? We have an important business deal we'd like to discuss with him. Li Qingzhao took a deep breath. You must be careful with your words. Thank you for the reminder, brother. The carriage started again. This person is definitely not of a kind sort. The scale of his ambition probably far exceeds our imagination. Li Qingzhao didn't answer. Her heart was also in turmoil. Living Bodhisattva, great demon king, benevolent, harsh, this Lin Yuan had become a puzzle composed of countless contradictions in her heart. The closer she got to him, the larger the puzzle became, and the more it made her feel uneasy and curious. Soon, they reached the end of the street, and the so-called largest and most grand county yamen appeared before them. It was a dilapidated courtyard that looked like it could collapse at any time. The courtyard walls were made of pitted mud with several large holes in them. The main gate was newly built, but the planks were inconsistent in thickness, clearly a temporary patchwork. There wasn't even a proper plaque on the gate. Only the 4 characters Shuofang County Yamen were written crookedly in ink. The entire yamen looked even more shabby than the courtyards of the wealthy farmers they had passed along the way. Chen Qingji was stunned, and so was Li Qingzhao. This was the office of that mysterious Lord Lin. It was a far cry from the residence of the far-sighted and wildly ambitious warlord they had imagined. While they were staring blankly, a young man dressed in coarse clothes, looking like an ordinary servant, walked out of the yamen yawning. He looked to be in his early 20s, and though he was quite handsome, he had a look of not being fully awake, and his hair was a bit messy. He held a paper bundle in his hand, stuffing food into his mouth as he walked, his mouth covered in grease. Old man Wang is really something. He agreed it was my day off today, yet he woke me up early for a meeting, saying something about the hygiene campaign entering its second phase. How annoying. The youth muttered in a low voice while eating. He looked up and happened to see the carriage parked at the entrance, and the pair of eyes behind the carriage window staring at him. No aura of a master could be felt, nor any official prestige. Instead, he looked like a sleepy boy from next door. We are here to pay our respects to Lord Lin, Chen Qingji said in a deep voice, his tone carrying a hint of scrutiny. When the young man heard the words Lord Lin, he froze for a moment, then pointed his finger at his own nose. That's me, he said. Is there something you need from me? Chen Qingji felt as if a thunderclap had gone off in his brain. He is Lin Yuan? The one who secretly raised 3,000 demon god death soldiers and slaughtered 800 bandits? The wildly ambitious and deeply calculating frontier warlord is this harmless-looking, even somewhat lazy guy before us. How is this possible? Li Qingzhao's beautiful face hidden behind the veil also froze. She had imagined countless scenarios for meeting me, perhaps in a heavily guarded military tent where he sat in the main seat with eyes like a hawk, or in a brightly lit study where he held a military manual and commanded the landscape. She thought he might be a burly man or a wise scholar, but she never imagined he would be such a plain-looking young man. And what was he just muttering about? Old man Wang? Hygiene campaign? How annoying. How did this look like a calculating leader? Right, it must be a disguise. This person is deeply calculating and must be deliberately using this lazy, harmless appearance to numb outsiders. Thinking of this, Li Qingzhao's mind instead became settled. She stepped down from the carriage and gave me a slight bow. I, Su Yue, greet Lord Lin, she said in a gentle and soft voice. This was the persona she had long set for this identity. My eyes instantly went wide. Although she was veiled and her full face couldn't be seen, just that graceful figure, those eyes as clear as water, and that melodious, pleasant voice, was enough to snatch away the heartstrings of someone like me, who in my past life had only seen beauties on a screen. Miss Su, no need for such formalities, please rise, I said, somewhat flustered, thinking to myself. Are the girls in ancient times of such high quality? And she's a daughter of a wealthy family. This transmigration was worth it. Chen Qingji looked at my goofy expression, and the contempt in his eyes grew stronger. Go ahead and keep acting. Would an ambitious leader who can unify 3,000 death soldiers behave like this because of a woman? The acting is too fake. Lord Lin, Chen Qingji stepped forward, blocking the space between Li Qingzhao and me. His tall frame was like a wall. Our lady is the second daughter of the Su family from Jingnan.
She has come here today wanting to discuss some business with you. Business? I was startled, my gaze shifting from Li Qingzhao to Chen Qingzi. I sized up this middle-aged man and my heart skipped a beat. This guy's temples were bulging and his gaze was like a knife. At a glance, he was a trained fighter and not to be trifled with. My heart instantly became alert. What business? I asked, while quietly taking half a step back, getting closer to the Yamen's main gate. If something went wrong, I could run away immediately. Our Su family has heard that Shuofang County is currently in a state of neglect and requires a large amount of supplies. Our Su family just happens to be in the business of silk, tea, and porcelain. We would like to open a trading post in Shuofang County. I wonder what Lord Lin thinks? Li Qingzhao said softly. This was the rhetoric she and Zhang Zhuzheng had agreed upon. Entering Shuofang as a merchant was both reasonable and a chance to observe my economic situation and true intentions. Hearing this, my eyes lit up. Opening a trading post? This is a good thing. What does Shuofang County lack most right now? Besides people, it's supplies. Although I have the system, but the system only provides burgers, cola, and spicy chicken. It can't even manifest salt. The 3,000 plus people under me are still wearing tattered clothes and using stones and wooden sticks. I was just worrying about how to exchange the loot from Blackwind Stronghold for practical items, and now hasn't someone delivered themselves to my door? Welcome, you are most welcome. I immediately put on a warm, smiling face. Shuofang County welcomes any person of insight to come and invest. The matter of opening a trading post is no problem. I'll approve it for you. I calculated in my heart. Great, later I can use gold to exchange with them for cloth, iron, and salt, and I can even collect taxes. This is my first investment promotion since becoming the county magistrate. I must handle it well. Li Qingzhao, looking at my money-grubbing appearance, became even more certain that this person was indeed pretending. He agreed so easily. On the surface, he's greedy for petty gain, but in reality, he wants to let a big fish like us into his pond. He wants to connect with the trade routes of Jiangnan through us for his greater plot.
That is definitely not just a tiny Shuofang County. Then I truly thank Lord Lin, Li Qingzhao said with another bow. It's just that we have just arrived, and are unfamiliar with the place. We don't even have a place to stay. I wonder if the Lord could provide some convenience and arrange a place for us. This was her second step of probing. She wanted to see where I would arrange for them, a closely monitored inn, or some other plot. Hearing this, I was stumped. Shuofang County was currently undergoing construction everywhere.
The houses are being torn down and rebuilt, so there aren't any decent places to stay. I can't let them stay in the refugee shelters, right? I thought about it and had a sudden inspiration. This is easy. I pointed to the county office behind me. My office is a bit run down, but there are a few vacant rooms in the backyard that are fairly clean. If you don't mind, you can stay here for now. That way you can find me anytime if you need something. My thought was simple. These were my first investors, my gods of wealth. I had to take good care of them. Staying at the office was safe, convenient, and showed my sincerity. However, to Li Qingzhao and Chen Qingji,
it sounded quite different. Living in the county office under the same roof as the magistrate? Chen Qingji's first reaction was danger. This was a Hongman banquet. He thought I wanted to keep the princess under my watch, but Li Qingzhao's thoughts went even deeper. Looking at my sincere expression, she sneered inwardly. What a move, luring the tiger into the trap. Did he want to keep me close to observe me day and night and test my background, or was he so confident that he thought I wouldn't find any flaws even living next to him? Or perhaps he had already seen through my identity and was asserting his dominance. In an instant, countless possibilities flashed through Li Qingzhao's mind. She realized she couldn't see through this young man at all. Behind every seemingly normal action, there seemed to be countless layers of intent. Dealing with him was like playing against a master chess player. You never knew where his next move would land. What? Is the place too run down? Seeing them silent for so long, I scratched my head. It is a bit shabby. How about I have old man Wang clear out a better room for you? We don't mind at all. Li Qingzhao immediately snapped out of it and said hurriedly. It is this young woman's honor to be taken in by your lordship. We shall trouble you then. She decided to beat him at his own game.
Since you want to keep me by your side, I'll go along with it. I want to see just how many masks this great demon king has. All right then, follow me, I said, turning to lead the way. As I walked, I turned back enthusiastically. Don't be a stranger. Make yourselves at home. Oh, have you had breakfast? Want to try a hamburger? I'm telling you, this stuff is delicious. The meat patty is big and thick. Looking at my overly enthusiastic back, Chen Qingji gripped his hilt and whispered to Li Qingzhao, Your Highness, this man is too strange. Since we're here, we might as well make the best of it. Li Qingzhao interrupted him. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were sharper than ever. I will personally unmask his true face. I arranged for Li Qingzhao and Chen Qingji to stay in
the backyard. There were indeed a few empty rooms, and they were blue brick houses with tiled roofs. Compared to my own master bedroom, which was on the verge of collapsing, these were quite decent. You can stay in these 2 rooms for now. They're a bit simple but clean, I said, pointing to the 2 adjacent side rooms. The bedding and everything are new. I had someone pull them out from the spoils of war just a couple of days ago. As I spoke, I was calculating in my head. These were major investors. I had to treat them well. Once they were settled, I'd go find Old Man Wang.
To have him pick a few nimble women to serve them. I also need to tell the kitchen to give them special meals. Wait, I don't have a kitchen right now. Everyone eats hamburgers. Thinking of this, I felt a bit embarrassed. I couldn't let guests eat hamburgers every day like me, could I? Although I thought hamburgers were a delicacy, a wealthy lady from Jingnan certainly wouldn't be used to them. Miss Su, I rubbed my hands together, feeling a bit awkward. Conditions are limited here. The food might be a bit monotonous. It's mainly a type of meat patty called a hamburger and a sweet drink called cola. If you're not used to it, I'll send someone into the city to see if they can buy some rice, flour, and vegetables. He felt his attitude was very sincere, but after hearing this, Li Qingzhao had a completely different thought.
Hamburgers? Cola? So these are the immortal stones that can turn ordinary people into supernaturally strong death warriors. He's actually going to give them to us so easily. What on earth is he planning? Alarm bells rang in Li Qingzhao's head. She immediately thought of several possibilities. First, there was something wrong with these immortal stones. Perhaps long-term consumption would allow him to control one's mind, turning them into fanatical death warriors like his subordinates. This was the boiling a frog in warm water method to control them. Second, he was testing them. He wanted to see their reaction to these stones. If they showed greed or fear, it would reveal their true purpose. Third, he was showing off, demonstrating his strength and his inexhaustible supply of immortal stones to intimidate them so they wouldn't dare act rashly. Any of these possibilities suggested that I was incredibly calculating. Thank you for your kindness, Lord Lin. Li Qingzhao suppressed her inner turmoil and wore a perfect smile. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. We will eat whatever your lordship eats. I am also very curious about these hamburgers and cola you mentioned. She decided to meet change with constancy. If you want me to eat, I'll eat. I'll see what secrets are hidden in these stones. Haha, good.
Miss Su is indeed straightforward. I was overjoyed to hear that.
My biggest fear was picky guests. This made things much easier. Well, you two settle in first. I'll go grab some food for you. With that, I ran off like the wind. I had to hurry to the system warehouse to get 2 freshly made hamburgers and 2 bottles of chilled cola. For the first time hosting guests, I had to provide the highest standard. Watching my departing figure, Chen Qingji's expression turned extremely grim. Your Highness, you mustn't, he said urgently. That food is of unknown origin. There must be a catch.
You have a body of 10,000 gold. How can you risk it so easily?
No matter. Li Qingzhao waved her hand, walked to the room door, and pushed it open. The room was indeed clean. 1 wooden bed, 1 table, and 2 chairs, nothing more. General Chen, do you think with our skills we wouldn't notice if the food was poisoned? She asked calmly. Chen Qingji paused, then said confidently, ordinary poisons certainly couldn't escape my notice. But I worry about some strange toxins we've never heard of, and if we don't eat, what do you think Lin Yuan will think? Li Qingzhao countered. Chen Qingji fell silent again. Right, if they refused, wouldn't it be the same as telling me, we suspect you? Then their plan to infiltrate Shuofang County would completely fail. Your Highness is wise. Chen Qingji lowered his head, his admiration for the princess growing. The more he wants us to do something, the more we must go along with his wishes. Li Qingzhao looked through the window in the direction I had gone. Only then will he let his guard down and reveal a flaw. Remember, from now on, we are desperate merchants from Jiangnan, and Lin Yuan is our only backer. What we must do is try every means to gain his trust. I understand. Chen Qingji replied in a low voice. Soon I was back, holding 2 neatly wrapped hamburgers and carrying 2 bottles of chilled cola, dripping with condensation under my arms, my face beaming with an enthusiastic smile. Come, Miss Su, Brother Chen. Try my exclusive honey-glazed hamburgers. They're fresh out of the oven and still warm. I placed the hamburgers and cola on the stone table in the courtyard and pushed them toward the 2 like I was showing off treasures. Looking at the paper wraps and the black bottles, Li Qingzhao felt a surge of emotions. This was the divine item that could change the fate of the world. This was the secret that turned 3,000 refugees into demon god death warriors. It looked quite ordinary. She reached out her slender hand and picked up a paper wrap, feeling the warmth through her fingertips. Following my lead, she carefully opened it. A rich aroma of meat and bread hit her. Soft buns, a seared brown patty, melted yellow cheese, and a few slices of green pickles. The sight alone was mouth-watering. Chen Qingji also picked up the other one, his expression grim, as if inspecting a lethal weapon. He sniffed it and looked closely at the color of the patty, finding nothing unusual. Eat up, don't be shy, I urged from the side, pulling another hamburger from my own robe and taking a huge bite. I'm telling you, this is best eaten while it's hot. It's not as good once it gets cold. Looking at my completely unguarded way of eating, Li Qingzhao took a deep breath and made a decision. She removed her veil. I was chewing on my burger when I caught this in my peripheral vision, and I instantly froze. I even forgot to swallow the bite in my mouth. What kind of face was I looking at? Eyebrows like distant mountains, eyes like autumn water, a refined nose, and skin like pristine snow. It was a face of extreme elegance and breathtaking beauty. If the beauties I saw on screens in my previous life were man-made diamonds, then the Li Qingzhao before me was an unpolished, peerless jade from the peak of a snowy mountain. I felt my heart skip a beat, no, several beats. Li Qingzhao didn't mind my dazed stare. She simply took an elegant, tiny bite of the hamburger. The softness of the bun, the savory aroma of the meat, the creaminess of the cheese, and the sweet and sour sauce.
Countless flavors she had never experienced before, yet perfectly blended together, exploded on the tip of her tongue. The sweet liquid slid down her throat. An unprecedented, wonderful sensation of stimulation rushed from her esophagus to her stomach, making her let out a tiny, cute hiccup. Her cheeks instantly flushed crimson. She felt a warmth rise from her stomach and spread throughout her body, making her tired body from the long journey feel instantly energized. This, she was completely shocked. She finally understood why the refugees were so fanatical about this food. Not only was it extremely delicious, but it truly allowed someone to recover their strength instantly. This was simply not food from the mortal realm. Chen Qingji also took a big bite. His perennially more acute than Li Qingzhao's, he could clearly feel waves of pure and massive heat surging from his stomach to his limbs and bones, replenishing his depleted qi and blood. This efficiency was 10 times faster than any of the most expensive medicinal meals he had ever eaten. He could no longer restrain himself, finishing the hamburger in 2 or 3 bites, then grabbing the cola and gulping down half the bottle. A loud burp escaped uncontrollably from the mouth of this commander of the Imperial Guard. The courtyard fell into a strange silence. I stared blankly at the two. I thought, this girl is way too pretty. Did she just hiccup? Even her hiccup is cute. And why is this ice face eating like a starving ghost? Slow down, no one's competing with you. I completely failed to realize what a storm the 2 hamburgers and a bottle of cola I had casually produced had stirred up in my guests' hearts. I had no idea that Li Qingzhao's gaze toward me had completely changed. It was no longer just testing and vigilance, but held a trace of deep, unresolvable fear. What kind of being was this man who could casually produce such divine items? The 3 of us ate with different thoughts. I was purely happy. Watching a beautiful woman eat made my own appetite much better, and I finished another burger. Meanwhile, Li Qingzhao and Chen Qingzhi spent the most contradictory meal of their lives in extreme shock and deliciousness. While enjoying the unprecedented taste and energy boost from the hamburgers and cola, they were frantically analyzing the terrifying truth behind it all. Looking at the empty paper wraps and bottles on the table, I asked warmly, "Miss Su, Brother Chen, how was it? Did it suit your tastes? Want another burger?" "No, no need. Thank you, Lord Lin, we are full." Li Qingzhao waved her hands hurriedly. She felt full of power, even having the urge to go run a few laps. She didn't dare eat more, fearing she would lose control like those refugees due to an energy surplus. Chen Qingzhi also shook his head. He was silently circulating his inner power, trying to refine that massive and pure energy within him. The more he refined it, the more horrified he became. This energy was gentle and pure, without any side effects. It was practically a divine medicine tailor-made for martial artists. If the Imperial Guard in the capital could eat this every day, he didn't dare think further. What a terrifying army that would be. All right then, you just arrived and must be tired. Get some rest first. I stood up, preparing to patrol my territory. You can wander around the courtyard, but don't leave the office. There's construction everywhere outside right now. It's a bit chaotic, and I'm afraid you'll get hurt. This was meant as a kind warning, but to Li Qingzhao, it sounded like another hint. Not letting them leave the office. Was he afraid they'd see something they shouldn't? Like the secret training of your 3,000 death warriors? She sneered inwardly, but responded submissively. All right, we understand. Thank you for your concern, Lord. After I left, Chen Qingji immediately lowered his voice and said with a dead serious expression, "Your Highness, this food is terrifying. I'm certain that if an ordinary soldier ate this for a month, his physique and strength would rival the most elite centurions in the army." A month, Li Qingzhao murmured to herself. The people in Shuofang County have already been eating this for over a month. No wonder they could easily wipe out the Black Wind bandits. General Chen, do you still think the secret reports from the hidden guards were an exaggeration? Li Qingzhao asked. Chen Qingji was silent. He recalled the phrase, demon god death warriors. Now, it seemed that term wasn't an exaggeration at all. Your Highness, we must find out the source of this food as soon as possible. Chen Qingji's gaze became sharp. If the source can be controlled by us, it would be a huge blessing for our great Qian. But if it cannot, then this Lin Yuan is our great Qian's greatest threat. Li Qingzhao nodded. Only from their mouths can we find out how he is actually training them. In the afternoon, Li Qingzhao found me staring blankly at a huge map in the front courtyard of the office. That map was a planning map of Shuofang County I had drawn myself, marked with all sorts of strange symbols for residential areas, industrial zones, workshops, commercial districts, military zones, training grounds, and so on. Lord Lin, Li Qingzhao called out softly. "Ah, Miss Su," I snapped out of it and hurriedly rolled up the map. I didn't want anyone seeing my chicken scratch drawings. "Is your lordship planning the site?" Li Qingzhao asked, feigning casual interest. "Yeah, just doodling, I laughed it off. "With more people you need a plan, or it'll be a mess." Li Qingzhao's mind raced again. Planning? A mere county magistrate actually understood urban planning and even divided it into different functional zones. Such a concept, not to mention a magistrate, even the ministers of the Ministry of Works might not have such clear thinking. Just how many unknown skills was this Lin Yuan hiding? Your lordship is truly far-sighted. This young woman is impressed. Li Qingzhao praised sincerely, and then she changed the subject. "I have a request. Miss Su, please, feel free to ask," I said, patting my chest. "The goods we brought this time are quite numerous, but we are short on hands.
I wonder if I could hire a few helpers from your lordship to help us transport and organize the goods. We will pay the wages as usual. Hearing this, I thought, what kind of request is that? It's a small matter. Why talk about wages? I waved my hand. I have thousands of men under me.
Every one of them is strong. I'll just call a few clever ones over to help. For free. I thought to myself, I must satisfy the demands of my sugar daddy investors. It's just a bit of labor, no big deal. Plus, it leaves a good impression for future business. How could we possibly? Li Qingzhao feigned hesitation. It's settled. Without allowing for argument, I turned and shouted toward the courtyard, Wang Gensheng, Old Man Wang. Come here for a second. Soon, Wang Gensheng came jogging over. Your lordship, you called? Old Wang, these two are distinguished guests who've come to invest in Shuofang County, Miss Su and Mr. Chen, I introduced. They need some hands to help out. Find a few brothers who are quick at work and bright in the head to follow Miss Su's orders. Hearing they were distinguished guests, Wang Gensheng immediately bowed respectfully to Li Qingzhao and Chen Qingji. But he was muttering to himself, how did two strangers suddenly appear by the Lord's side? Judging by their aura, they don't look like ordinary merchants. Could it be capable men the Lord recruited in secret? He didn't dare ask more and hurriedly replied, yes, my lord, I'll arrange it right away. Wang Gensheng was very efficient. In a short while, he brought 5 of the most burly, sharp-eyed men over. My lord, these 5 brothers are the best fighters and the most obedient from our county battalion. Having them protect and help Miss Su will surely be foolproof. Wang Gensheng introduced them with a face full of pride. Hearing the words county battalion, Li Qingzhao and Chen Qingji both felt a jolt. So these were members of that terrifying army. County battalion? Li Qingzhao looked at the 5 hulking men. Even as they stood there quietly, they exuded a bloodthirsty, martial aura. She could fully imagine how terrifying these men would be on the battlefield. And yet I had casually sent them to be her porters. Was I truly just carefree, or was I using this to flex my muscles? Li Qingzhao felt her brain struggling to keep up again. Alright, you lot will follow Miss Su from now on. Remember, you must listen to Miss Su and protect her safety. Understood. I instructed the 5 men. By your command. The 5 roared in unison, their voices shaking the fields and making me jump. Holy crap, why shout so loud? Scared the life out of me, I muttered under my breath. Li Qingzhao watched all of this. She bowed slightly and said, thank you, Lord, while thinking. What a move. Close surveillance. He had sent 5 of his strongest death warriors under the guise of helping, but in reality they were there to watch her. This Lin Yuan was indeed meticulous. Over the next few days, Li Qingzhao used the excuse of organizing goods to intentionally or unintentionally interact with the 5 soldiers. She found that their worship of me had reached a state of blind devotion. No matter what she asked, they couldn't go 3 sentences without mentioning our Lord. Brother, isn't such high-intensity training every day exhausting? To die for the Lord is a joy. How could it be exhausting? We only regret that we aren't working hard enough to share the Lord's burdens. And is your training all personally directed by Lord Lin? Of course. The body and chi refinement methods of our county battalion were all personally passed down by the Lord. He even taught us to balance tension and relaxation, and to combine work with rest. These are supreme ways of training an army. Chen Qingji's eyelids twitched as he listened. Tension and relaxation? Work and rest? He had seen with his own eyes that their so-called cultivation involved beating each other half to death on the training ground. What kind of balance was that? Does Lord Lin have any expectations for you? Li Qingzhao asked the most crucial question. One soldier puffed out his chest and said with a fanatical look in his eyes, how can we mortals speculate on the Lord's ambitions? We only need to know that wherever the Lord's sword points is where we shall fight to the death. We'll strike whoever the Lord tells us to, even if it's the heavenly emperor himself. If the Lord gives the command, we dare to pull him down from the heavens. Li Qingzhao fell silent. She looked at the fanatical, almost distorted expressions on the soldiers' faces. A deep chill welled up in her heart. She finally understood that the most terrifying thing about me wasn't the immortal stones in my hands or my 3,000 demon god death warriors. It was this method of training soldiers that made countless people willing to die for me, even seeing death as an honor. This tactic exceeded the scope of schemes and military strategy. It was almost in the realm of the divine. A few more days passed and Li Qingzhao and Chen Qingji had temporarily settled into Shuofang County. During these days, they witnessed many things that overturned their worldviews. They saw so-called recruit training, where a bunch of refugees who had only just started getting enough to eat were digging huge pits. They called public toilets, ostensibly to train their earthwork skills and familiarize themselves with tunnel warfare. They saw groups of people surrounding horses, treating them like ancestors, grooming them daily, talking to them, and even sleeping with them at night, claiming they were grasping the Lord's secret of unity between man and horse. They also saw that every day at noon, everyone would go into a frenzy, eating hamburgers and drinking cola, then sitting cross-legged to meditate and chant, claiming they were refining the surprises within the hamburgers. The entire Shuofang County was like a giant army camp filled with absurd and eerie colors. Yet, the creator of all this, Lin Yuan, lived leisurely every day, either sleeping in the county office or strolling around the construction sites, occasionally pointing at his chicken scratch map and mentioning things like improving the sewer system or reserving fire lanes for the commercial street, strange terms no one understood.
Li Qingzhao felt she was on the verge of a mental breakdown. On one hand, the man she saw with her own eyes was a lazy, easygoing, and even somewhat unlearned young man. But on the other hand, from the fanatical worship of the county battalion soldiers to the entire, it all manifested the unfathomable depth and methods behind this young man. She felt that the king she saw was just the tip of the iceberg, with a massive vortex capable of overturning the entire Great Qian hidden beneath the calm surface. Your Highness, today seems to be what they call a rest day. Chen Qingji came to Li Qingzhao's room, his expression a bit odd. Rest day, Li Qingzhao remembered. That girl Zhao Li mentioned that Shuofang County works 10 days and rests for 1. Yes, I just went out to take a look. No one is working at the construction sites today. Chen Qingji said, but they aren't idle either. What are they doing? They're fighting. Chen Qingji's expression became even stranger. Over 3,000 people are brawling barefisted in the clearing outside the city, every one of them acting like they're possessed, seemingly feeling no pain. The scene was terrifying. Li Qingzhao's heart stirred. Instead of resting on a rest day, they were engaged in a mass brawl. Was this another one of my new training methods? Come, let's go see. The two left the office and went up to the city wall to look out. The vast clearing outside the city was densely packed with people. They were fighting in small groups, fists hitting flesh, their roars shaking the heavens. Everyone was bruised and swollen, some even bleeding from their heads, yet their faces bore expressions of excitement and exhilaration. This wasn't training, it was clearly a massive-scale brawl. Just as Li Qingzhao and Chen Qingji were shocked by this violent sight, an incredibly potent aroma suddenly wafted from the county office, instantly sweeping across the entire scene. It was a complex scent, numbing, spicy, fresh, and savory. Just smelling it made one's mouth water and heart race. Li Qingzhao and Chen Qingji both sniffed the air involuntarily. The scent was even more aggressive and alluring than the hamburgers. Then, they witnessed an even more incredible sight. The group of berserkers outside the city, who had been fighting frantically, all stopped their movements the moment they smelled the aroma. Like a pack of beasts that had been hit with a pause button, they all turned their heads in unison, gazing fervently toward the county office, the sound of loud swallowing echoing from their throats. The violent battle intent on their faces was instantly replaced by an extreme craving for food. It's peppery chicken, the Lord's fresh peppery chicken. Heavens, we finally get to eat peppery chicken again. Hurry, go line up. If you're late, it'll be gone. The crowd exploded into a frenzy. Opponents who were just fighting to the death were now shoulder to shoulder, scrambling toward the office gates even faster than if they were fleeing for their lives. Li Qingzhao and Chen Qingji watched from the wall, dumbfounded. Peppery chicken? Another new food? And by the sound of it, this food was even more precious than hamburgers and cola. Soon they saw me yawning, leading a few people, pushing several wheelbarrows out of the office. The carts were piled high with steaming packages wrapped in oil paper, the source of that aggressive aroma. Don't push. There's enough for everyone, I shouted at the top of my lungs. My heart was bleeding, damn it. The side effects of this peppery chicken were too strong. Last time they nearly tore down the office. This time I had to control the portions. Each person could only have half a wrap. No, a third of a wrap. However, my words were futile before those ravenous crowds. Wang Gensheng was the first to reach me. Looking at the oil paper wrap, he was moved to tears. My lord, you are too kind. How could we be worthy of tasting such a level-breaking divine pill again? He snatched an oil paper wrap from my hand and without a second thought tore it open, grabbed a glistening chicken thigh, and stuffed it into his mouth. Ha! The familiar lightning-like numbness and fiery spice instantly exploded in his mouth. Wang Gensheng shuddered all over. He felt a majestic current of heat erupt from his stomach, instantly surging through his limbs and bones. His old face turned red at a visible speed. His eyes flashed with golden light, and he looked 20 years younger. Wang Gensheng couldn't help but laugh toward the sky, his voice filled with explosive power. Once there was a first, there was a second and a third. The office entrance instantly turned into a scene of fiery shadows. Over 3,000 people grabbed their peppery chicken and started eating on the spot. For a time, the sounds of tearing, chewing, roars from the spicy stimulation, and uncontrollable beast-like howls merged into a wild and eerie symphony. Li Qingzhao and Chen Qingji watched the scene below like a dance of demons from the city wall, feeling their limbs go cold. They saw a burly man, after eating the peppery chicken, roar at the sky, and then punch the nearby earthen wall, literally smashing a huge hole in it. They saw another soldier finish eating, his eyes turning blood red, as he hoisted a rock weighing hundreds of caddies and spun around frantically, creating a whistling wind. They saw that everyone who ate the peppery chicken had steam rising from their bodies, their muscles bulging and veins popping, looking like demon gods that had broken free from hell. This is no longer food. Chen Qingji's voice was trembling. This is a forbidden drug, a demonic potion. He had never seen any medicine that could cause someone's strength to explode to such a terrifying degree in an instant. It completely exceeded his understanding of martial arts. Li Qingzhao said nothing. She just stared intently at the perpetrator surrounded by the crowd, looking helpless and terrified me.
She saw me desperately guarding the remaining carts of peppery chicken, shouting at the crazed crowd, "Slow down, don't snatch, save some for me, I want to eat too."
My voice was quickly drowned out by the sky-shaking roars. Li Qingzhao's heart sank to the bottom. She finally understood why the Hidden Guard spies used demon god death warriors to describe these people, because they truly were a pack of demons with infinite strength and no sense of pain, created by a demonic potion. And as for me, who could casually produce such a potion, I was neither a living Buddha nor a great demon king. I was a god capable of creating demons.